Hey everybody, GameHounds podcast. We are here and we did not have any audio issues. You might notice I have a brand new headset. This is the one that Goalie uses, the one that we talked about last week. Went and bought it, and there were no audio issues today. And there won't be. And now I actually sound better than Nick again. So let's see.
I
You
mean,
ready?
do you really or
Right there. Edie and Nick over there.
yes?
So you were saying,
Do you really sound all that better or is it just you think you sound better?
oh, oh. I will let the audience.
Because most of the
When
time,
AC Wraith comes in and everybody else comes in, we will have them decide.
yes. It's the 80-20 rule, right? Like it's easy to get 80% of something,
Right?
but that next 20%
Yeah.
is like, is it really worth the effort? It's so much harder.
It
That
really,
that
really is.
final
It
that
when it
final
comes to audio,
20%
it really
takes
is.
80% of the effort.
It really is worth it.
And so what I'm wondering, because at a certain point, I
Yeah.
will listen to something and go, yeah, it sounds the same.
No, you will notice. I'm really surprised AC Wraith isn't in here yet. Is everything okay? I saw he sent a text about a new guitar that he wants. This might be the year he gets his guitar. It's now become such a thing. So, yeah, nobody's here. Are we streaming? We seem to be. Are we streaming? Where is everyone? It's cold and I'm lonely and there's wolves. Um, so yeah, you will notice I am at Chris's again. Went to a Giants game, or sorry, A's game last night, and you might hear that my voice is sounding a little gravelly. It's because I am pretty hoarse. I was very hoarse last night. I got a little bit of my voice back.
Because you were cheering or screaming.
Oh, screaming. Oh god. It was a pretty good game until
Okay,
top
okay.
of the ninth inning, like last up for the Dodgers, and the A's just collapsed. Collapsed.
So, okay, we
And,
went
and it
to
was so ludicrous that my brother and I were just laughing because we're not A's fans. I don't care about the A's losing. But it was just so ludicrous. I've never seen a team just spontaneously combust the way that the A's did last night. And
so
then because
we went
they
well
beat the Dodgers the night before.
so earlier last week,
Uh-huh.
we went to a soccer game that was a playoff, like a friendly game between Wrexham and Chelsea. And
Right.
Wrexham has like a whole TV show about it that's really good called Welcome to Wrexham. Highly recommend people check it
Oh
out.
yeah, so
Um,
good.
but that game, they tied with Chelsea.
Right?
And every other game that me and Rachel have been to, every other sports event that we've been to, the home team is lost, or the team we were rooting for lost.
Oh, okay.
So to see them draw, it was like, yay! Like the team we
We
were
were
rooting for draw.
losing.
But then as I was thinking about it, it was like, you know what? That would feel like more of a curse if the home teams that we went to see didn't almost universally suck.
Yeah, that is true.
So
It's
it's like
really hard. It's hard if you're in
The
the Bay Area
A's lost. That's not unusual. The Giants lost.
No,
That's
the
not
A's are doing pretty
unusual.
good. A's are doing pretty good, and they have in
Not
general
when we saw them. Not when we saw them.
when you saw
Every
them.
single time that we saw and then there
Stay
was a
away from this
basketball team, then I forget what the Warriors?
Warriors.
Yes.
You
They
went
were
to
sucking too.
yeah.
So
Hey, there's my AC Ray. There you are, baby. We were missing you. I was concerned. Hey, new headset. How do we sound? How's the balance? I trust your judgment, not Nick's. How do we sound? Do I sound too hot?
I think I sound pretty good.
No. It's really about balance right now. Um, but yeah, I mean, I can make it. I can even just adjust it so that it's closer to my mouth. I just don't want to get the plosives. It doesn't sound like I'm getting any plosives, so. So, thank you for the Patreon. Yes, we are 100% Patreon funded. Buck a month is all we ask. We've been doing this for going on now 15 years. So we got this down and we got as cheap as it possibly can be to do it. So if you are interested in being a patron of ours, $1 a month is all we ask to help pay for some of the subscriptions that we have to and the services we have to have.
To help pay for Edie's headset addiction.
No, I do not have a headset addiction.
How many headsets do you
You're
have?
the one.
How many headsets do you have?
Well, did you count earbuds as headsets?
How much do the earbuds cost?
Like $100.
Yes.
I have 3 sets of earbuds for my iPhone. I have 1 work headset for taking calls and Zooms, 1 gaming headset, which I was hoping that was going to be a headset that I could use for podcasting on the road. I cannot because last week you started to complain, like not just complain, but lose your temper about how I was constantly having audio
The thing
issues.
is, you came over and we switched the cable and it immediately worked. You went back home, used the old cable, and it immediately didn't work.
I think it's the old cable.
Switch the cable. Did you switch the cable? Have you tried it with a different cable?
Yes, I have tried it with a different cable.
And did it work?
No, it's just temperamental.
I don't know. I don't know. We switched
It's
the
made
cable.
for
And
gaming.
it was just flipping a switch. The cable.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is that you're not using it plugged in. You have the dongle. That's what it all comes down to. Is I don't have the dongle with me when I'm traveling. Dongle that time was in my Xbox at home, so I didn't have the dongle. So without the dongle, you're done, and that's a problem. This thing sounds great, totally easy, and because it's got dual inputs in the back, we can actually get you a good microphone, and we could both broadcast together and hear each other through our headsets when we're in the same room.
I mean, this
It's
is
going to
plugged
be
in.
broadcast ready.
This is plugged in. It's recording through the dongle, but it's also plugged
It's
in.
recording through the dongle. Yeah, you're just getting power to it from plugged in. Yeah,
And I
that's
could also just switch it and put it to USB.
yeah. Well, anyway, bottom line, all taken care of, all done, all happy. I love my new box. I really love my headset. I've been wanting this headset for a long time, and I got it open box, so it was cheap, comparatively cheap. So I'm super happy. And AC Race, it seems okay. Okay, the balance is there. That's good. Excellent. I don't have to, adjust my settings, which is fantastic. And I'm looking forward now to recording with you in house.
There we go.
Because I will bring you a good microphone. I may even get you another one of these if I can find it used.
I've got a drawer in the end table that's just like headphones that I no longer use.
You should get one. You're the one that given me a hard time about headphones. I scrap my headphones.
Well, because I don't want to throw away like a gadget that's perfectly good, but you keep getting me new ones, and it's like, well, this one now goes into the pile. This one goes into the pile.
Well, you won't buy your own. I have spent a lot of money on headphones. You're too cheap to buy good headphones.
Hey, I spent $60 on a pair of headphones at PAX like 8 years ago.
Right, but that's not for recording. It's a whole different ball of wax. We're talking about.
I mean, that was for recording. That was for recording. See, I'm looking for a universal headphone. I don't want one for work, one for recording, one for gaming.
There is no good universal. If you want one, guess what you're going to have to spend? Money, a lot of money. And honestly, it's going to be master of all, a jack of all trades and master at none. Like now, I have all good ones. They all work. They're all high quality. I could go anywhere with them. It's super easy, plug and play.
Okay. Because I've got this one that you got me for recording, and then, ironically enough, this PlayStation headset I use for both work and gaming.
See, that makes sense. Work and gaming, that would make sense. I could, because PlayStation is Bluetooth, right? I could use my Zoom headset for.
It might be Bluetooth. I always plug it into the controller.
Yeah.
AC Wraith asks, does Nick have that Focusrite now? What is the Focus?
Focusrite? No, he does not have a Focusrite. I'm the one that has the Focusrite.
That's what the box is.
2i2, and this is the Gen 4.
Gotcha.
And it was on sale. like screaming sale. Like it, the two by two was less expensive than what I bought the Solo for at the end of last year. So I'm super happy about that. So let's get off of talking about being headset nerds and tech gadget nerds or audio tech nerds. Let's
Let's
talk
stop
about
talking about tech
gaming nerds.
gadgets and start talking about video games.
Right. All right. So tell me about your video game. What you been playing this week?
I have done more Olympic watching, and so that
Mhm.
means more playing on the Odin handheld.
Oh my god. Now, see, I haven't been able to watch live or even over the weekends because usually somebody's rolling around. But there's been a couple of amazing things that I have seen that aren't like, you know, standard watching. First off, women's team fencing, United States,
Mm,
won for the first time in fencing, which is
well,
amazing.
not just.
Foil,
Oh wait, yeah, that was the team,
team
but in the individual, I believe U.S. was gold
foil.
and silver because they
Yep,
went into the final match against each other.
yep. Which is amazing. I mean, I'm FYI, I was a fencer in college, in high school and college.
Hmm.
I was a fencer. Um, and another great story, which you're gonna have to look this up on Peacock, and just like go back for it. It is, and it's just almost raw video of the women's qualifiers in saber, which is an event within the fencing world. It's different
Okay.
from foil. It's different from epee. Saber is the most aggressive of the type of fencing, and there was a woman from Morocco, Morocco, Egypt, Brazil. I forgot where it was. I think it was Morocco, and she was, I mean, I watched her because I knew about this afterwards. But after she won one bout, she lost her second bout and finished 16th. After she finished 16th, she revealed she's 7.5 months pregnant.
Oh, huh.
Like, not just a little pregnant, a whole lot of pregnant. You couldn't tell. And so I was like, I want to see what this looks like. And I went back and watched her. She was unbelievably aggressive. I mean, saber is an aggressive sport. She was a freaking beast. She kept that other, and it was she beat an American. She kept that girl off on her back foot the entire time. She would come in like a hurricane, and as soon as it was Ale, it was on. And I'm looking at her going, does she look pregnant? I'm like, she looks heavier in the thigh than your average fencer, but saber fencers tend to be on the stocky side, stocky and strong. So I'm like, you could easily see that was she's just a stocky fencer. And that was, of course, after when she won her one bout that she did win, she broke down into tears, and like nobody else would break down into tears. And it's like, now, once you saw it, then you knew why she broke down into tears. It's because I think she didn't know that she could win being that pregnant and doing it. So it made me love fencing even more because that's the kind of women that are fencers. At 7.5 months pregnant, saber, bring it. Stand in front of somebody with a weapon, absolutely, no problem. I'm going to come at you like hellfire. You better be ready. That's what I love about fencing. Anyway, it was like that was my big inspirational moment so far of this of the Olympics, even though it's not what probably anybody else was inspired by.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about that, and I didn't see any of the qualifiers, right? Because I'm watching the
Right, yeah, no, the
semifinals and the finals.
qualifiers were not televised. They were all, when you watch it, it's literally, it's like you will have the top of the screen will be one match going, and the bottom of the screen will be another match going because they're gonna have 2 matches going at the same time to
So
get.
Peacock is doing this really cool thing
Yeah.
now where they will show quadrants. And
Yeah.
so during like the day when there's a lot going on, you can click to multi-view and it will show you like what they decide are like the top events.
Oh,
And so
that's
you've
kinda
got
cool.
one in each quadrant of the screen. And if you click on it once, the sound shifts to that one. And if you click on it again, then that goes full screen. But then if you hit back, it goes back to the multi-view. And
Nice.
so you can use that to kind of watch 4 things at once and like, this basketball match is getting to the last 2
You
minutes. I'm
feel
gonna
like
click
you're in
into
the
that,
control room, right? You're in the
zoom into
control
that.
watching the whole
It's like,
Olympics.
then that ends. I'm gonna back out. Oh, there's a fancy one going on. I'm gonna zoom in there.
Yep.
It's like, oh, they went to timeout. Zoom out here, zoom into the other one.
That's kind of cool.
It's very cool.
I'm gonna have to watch that a lot more because Peacock. I get Peacock for free because we are Instacart members, and if you were a member on Instacart, you get free Peacock, and my company is Instacart members, so I just got the free Peacock through them. So they're essentially subsidizing
That's cool.
my Peacock.
AC Wraith says, I tried fencing at a Renaissance fair. The sword was heavier than I expected, and I ended up embarrassing myself, stabbing the lady teacher under the belt.
Well, all right. So that was probably foil, but saber, that's a different. Okay, foil. Foil it's a sword, a very thin sword, and you have to touch but just on this will be a tip. You can't have a
you have to point.
You have to touch the top, and with foil, your target area is your upper body, and down to your crotch or waist. I think it's down to your waist. It's this is your target area. So if you hit out like your arm or your hand, it doesn't count. Epee is like the foil. You have to touch, but everywhere on your body is a target, and it's touch. Saber is the one where your hand is covered, and it can be touch / anything, and the whole body, foot to head, is fair game. Hands, everything. So it's a slash. It's this rather than this. It's this.
It's cool. I like saber.
And that's the one where you get hurt. That's the one that hurts. So yeah, that's the fun one.
But in terms of, if we're talking about Olympics, if we're talking about like impressive achievements, I thought you were going to mention yesterday in the women's swimming 1500 meter race.
Right.
Katie Ledecky won, which isn't unusual.
Right.
But she won by a whole 10 seconds.
Yeah, no, she didn't just win. She crushed it.
Like, has the cameras following and she goes and she hits it. It's like she's the only one on screen.
Right.
And then it's kind of
She's
sits
out
and
drying off, and then the next
everyone to check out.
Finishes. Yeah, she's
like,
a monster.
Wow.
Yeah. So, what other than Olympics, what else have you been doing?
Well, because of the Olympics, I have been playing on my own handheld. And last week I talked about how I tested out playing Path of the Goddess through Game Pass Cloud.
Right.
Because you can stream that game from the cloud to the device. And it worked really well. I did more of that this week. So I played more Path of the Goddess, and I can talk about that in a second. But this week, what I also tested out is the PlayStation streaming capability.
Okay.
So it works a little differently. With Game Pass, you just stream from Microsoft servers to whatever device, you want to play on. That means you don't have to turn on your Xbox console.
Right.
I just open the Game Pass app, select a game, and it streams to the device.
Okay.
PlayStation doesn't have that. PlayStation allows you to stream a game from your PlayStation 5 to a device, but that means first I have to turn on the PlayStation.
Okay.
You can set it up so that you can use your device to wake it from sleep. But if the PS5 is off, then you have to kind of go manually turn it on.
Okay.
But if it's in rest mode, you can just from your device select a game, and it will wake the PlayStation up automatically. And then from there, you're just kind of on the PlayStation home screen, and you can select the game and play it. And so I selected this new turn-based tactics game that I bought like just recently. I'll talk about it more. And it also worked pretty well. I think there was a little graphical issue in that there's like a white line at the very top of the screen that like a kind of occasionally came and went.
Oh, you're talking. Hold on a second. Talking games now. Saving the intro music to the end. Thank you for reminding me. Hold that thought, Nick. Hold that thought. Oh, I gotta get to the music part. Stand by.
This podcast discusses video games, modern culture, and technology. and these podcasters are big fat potty mouths. If you're younger than 18 or are easily offended, please stop this podcast now. Oh, and your mom says to take out the trash and do your homework.
Hello and welcome to GameHounds. GameHounds episode 724. Is it really 724 or is it 742? Anyway, it is August 4th, 2024. I'm Edie Sellers. With me is Nikki Nicola. We're already partially through what Nick's been playing and what Nick's been doing, so continue on. All right, so
Which kind of makes it like, why interrupt? Just save it for the
because it's you got to do. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. It's the OCD in me that says we really got to do that. Anyway.
So yes, playing a game through the PlayStation Remote Play, there was like a little white bar at the top of the screen that, like, in some instances, like a character would start talking and it would appear, and then it would cut to like a different character and it would disappear. Just like one of those little graphical issues.
Oh, that's kind of sucks. I hate that.
It didn't appear all that much. The bigger issue is the game that I chose. And that's just because it's a game that's meant to be played on a big TV. So a lot of the text was very, very small.
Oh, yeah. I had the same problem when I was trying to play Kerbal Space Program on the PlayStation, or is it Xbox? One of them, one of the consoles early on, is that the text was so tiny you couldn't read it. And that was a very text, especially the tutorial. It was all text. So I couldn't figure out how to play the game, really, because I had to stand in front of the TV like this close and be reading it line by line. Anyway, you were saying tiny text.
Tiny text. But as for the game themselves, I guess I'll start with Path of the Goddess, since AC Wraith has already put those links in the chat.
Okay.
I've played more of that. That game continues to be really, really cool. And there's a article on Kotaku that had the headline like Path of the Goddess feels like a 360 game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
And like we can talk about some of this too with some news items that like this, it feels like a 360 game. Or, you know, as someone who's been digging into PS2 games for the emulator a lot, it kind of feels like a PS2 game from that era. In that it doesn't feel like it's trying to be mainstream. It doesn't feel like it's trying to be a 4 quadrants blockbuster. You know, we need to make this game. We need to have some RPG mechanics. Oh, it's got to have an open world because things like that. It's got to have some microtransactions in order to get some extra money. Like, it doesn't feel like a game designed by committee to have all the generic bullet points that like a modern AAA game does. It feels like a much smaller game that is allowed to just be like kind of fucking weird.
Right.
And so a lot of it is just like really weird. But what that means is it might not be for everybody, but for the people that like it, they'll really like it. And you kind of don't see a lot of games like that outside of, you know, the indie space. And so to see Capcom make a game like this is really, really refreshing. And it's particularly nice because Capcom seems to have had like a really, really good year for games. Between Dragon's Dogma 2 came out earlier this year and sold really, really well. And I know they've done something else. So they just put out Marvel vs. Capcom on like the Switch and modern consoles, and that's done really well. And so it's nice to see this developer not chase the trends and not chase the bigger trends, and hopefully be rewarded for it. I hope this game sold well. I am playing it on Game Pass, and so part of me feels a little guilty about that because I think like, oh, I didn't buy the game. I wonder if that counts. I wonder if my Game Pass hours count towards whatever metric they're using to measure success. And it is kind of weird that
I'm listening, by the way. I have a cat that's about to knock a box off of a table.
Okay. And it's kind of weird that we're in that situation, like in the larger scheme of the game industry, that like, oh, I'm playing a game on streaming and I'm really enjoying it, but am I playing it on streaming? Is that like stealing it? Like how does that factor into their success? But As for the game
Sorry, I'm
itself,
making noise. I'm getting the box out of the way and putting it in the state where the cat can play in the box because that's what the cat wants to do. Wants to
oh,
play.
always, always.
There we
As for the game itself, what's really cool about it is that when it begins, you're kind of given a lot of typical kind of tower defense levels. Like I said, some levels range between tower defense exploration levels and more like RTS strategy boss levels.
go. Hmm.
But a lot of the tower defense stuff, it begins with you trying to carve a path through the level, and oh, enemies are going to come from the other end, so I'm going to set up my soldiers, to protect the goddess. And you kind of do that one or two times, and then the goddess gets to the end of the path, you go on to the next level. But what's cool about the game is after like doing the same thing like two or three times, it starts mixing up the formula. It starts adding divergent paths so that now you can choose, well, I want to go left or right. And that's going to change the obstacles in my way. That's going to bring me closer to an enemy gate. But then there's also more like um, obstacles I can build that will, get in the enemy's way. More fences, more boosts for my character. But then it starts like completely changing up the formula where I played a level where I'm on a boat and the enemies are coming in on other boats and I have cannons that I have to. So it's the kind of level where you just want all archers because you just want ranged, and it completely mixes up the formula. And then other levels have it where I don't have any soldiers. So it's a tower defense game where I have no towers and I have to run around and like just kill the enemies myself. What makes that like really, really cool is that all the resources you use to upgrade people, you can reverse those at any point with like no punishment.
Hmm.
So if I get to the level that's like only archers, and I should probably level up my archers a lot, but I don't have enough of the resources. Well, let me go take the soldiers, like bring them down a couple levels to get those resources back, and then pump those into the archer. And all of a sudden, now they're really strong and really good on this level. Oh, I'm playing a game where it's just me. Let me like take all the resources away from my soldiers, just put them into the main character so that he becomes super strong. And like you can kind of rearrange your team and rearrange how the team has leveled up based on the level. And that I think is what makes the game feel so addictive and so compelling and not punishing, because every time I get to a level that feels, oh, this is really hard, I was not well equipped for this, I can go and re-equip myself to better suit the level. It's not just a matter of, well, this is a hard level and I kind of equipped poorly for it. I'm just going to have to suffer through this and try to find a way to beat it. Like
Hmm.
it allows you the flexibility to always change your team into something advantageous, and that gives it like a nice tactical edge, that, like I said, prevents it from ever getting frustrating. It also just happens to still have a really, really cool style.
It does. I was actually just thinking about that. That it looks just so cool. Um, so you are in general, the streaming works other than the graphical issues, right? You
the
were
the
okay with
graphical issue
happy with.
was the graphical issue was it's worth saying only on the PS5's remote play.
Okay.
I haven't had any graphical issues with the
Odin.
Game Pass streaming.
Oh, that's right. Did you say you played it on the Odin?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I've
So
I've I have played Path of the Goddess both on the Odin handheld and on a TV, and I will say it's nicer on a TV. It's
Mhm.
better with the big old controller,
Right.
but I'm watching Olympics, I'm watching stuff. You can pause it at any time. So it's like, oh, I'm fighting, pause, watch some stuff. Oh, they went to timeout. Okay, unpause, play a little bit, pause, watch. And it's nice to be able to do that with a modern game, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah. All right. So any other game that you were playing?
Yes, the other game I played that I tested out the PS5's remote play on was another turn-based tactics game that came out a while ago called Lost Eidolons.
Mm,
And this is I might have spelled that wrong, but
I'll
I hope
find
I
it.
didn't.
I will know in just a moment.
This is the type of game that, much like the Deerfield Chronicle and I want to say Chronicles. I think AC Wraith was wrong. It should be Chronicles. Last week. This is a game that very much feels like its ambition is butting up against its budget. What's neat about it and what kind of captured my attention is turn-based tactics. Hey, you got a grid, you're going to move characters and then have them attack. When they attack, the camera cuts to like a kind of cinematic close-up view of a guy running up and trading blows. And that, like I said, that gives it just a really cool cinematic flair that makes it look a lot bigger budget than it really is. Like this right here.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, the camera zooms in and you see him fight. And other games have done this, like Fire Emblem does this a lot.
Right.
But that's an anime style, and this is doing it in a very kind of gritty, realistic style.
Right.
And yeah, that's what captured my attention and made me want to try it out. Well, the graphics are good. Where it kind of gets the edge of the budget is with the animation in conversation. Because when it cuts to a conversation and the characters are talking, the voice acting isn't bad. It's not great, but it's like, hey, this is fine. This is passable. I can deal with this. But all the character models like have no reaction. It's just like dead face with some lips flapping. Oh my God, we need to retreat. This is awful.
Wait. Hold on a second. We mean, do that again. I need to see that. Wait, hold on a second. There we go. Hold on. All right. There we go. Now, do it.
We need to retreat. This is awful. Oh no, Ben. What am I going to do? I will avenge you. And it's
that was golden. I like that.
It's in those moments that, especially for the very beginning, because in the beginning of the game, there's a lot of cutscene and not a lot of fighting. And so hearing that and seeing that, I started the game just kind of being like, oh, the tactics are kind of interesting, but like, boy, I don't really care about these characters. I don't care about the story. Like these all people all kind of suck. It's like, oh God, I want to skip this and like just get to the fights. But then the fight is really simple because it's teaching you the systems. But then like I didn't skip it. I didn't skip the story.
Right.
And it's like I'm reading the dialogue faster than the characters are speaking. So it's like I'm reading it, skip, reading it, skip, reading it, skip.
Right.
But then at a certain point, like 2 hours in, I stopped skipping. And like, I want to hear this. The character models are just lip flapping.
They're like in South Park, they're the Canadians.
Yeah. But like, once I get to camp and I start talking with the characters, like, oh, this characterization is actually kind of good. It's like, oh, this story's actually kind of interesting. Because it begins with you're just like some dude in town with some buddies, and you have like a mercenaries team that's like, hey, me and my buddies, you need this dude beaten up, we'll go beat him up for you. Oh, you need
want me to hit him in the knee?
Yeah, we'll go hit him in the knee. That's fine. Oh, did you like lose your plow? We'll go find your plow for you. Like that type of country detective mercenary team. Well, then one lady comes to you and says like, I need you to break my sister out of jail. And they're like, what the fuck?
Well, that escalated.
That escalated. And they're like, why? And she says, well, she's in jail because the noble of the town, right? The big nobleman in town. He killed my husband.
Oh my God.
He kidnapped me and my child and my sister and like held us prisoner in his mansion and is forcing me to marry him. Eventually, my sister got so pissed that she attacked him with a like dinner knife, but she failed. And now she's going to be hung in the morning. And the guys are like, that's fucked up. Okay, we should try this. We should try to break her out. Things go wrong. The main character also gets imprisoned.
Okay.
But then they kind of start off this like, okay.
So the story gets interesting real fast.
We still need to break out. This is all like first 2 hours.
Right.
Main character gets imprisoned too. And then he's like, shit, we're all going to get executed. We need to bust out of here. So he's like, he manages to talk to his friends, like, I need you to start a distraction on the outside. On the inside, I'm going to try to foment a prisoner rebellion. It helps that one of the prisoners with him is essentially a government spy who was investigating the nobleman for corruption. And she found corruption, so he imprisoned her and said, I'm going to execute you. So she's on board with this whole let's foment a rebellion. Things obviously escalate very, very quickly. The whole town practically rebels. The nobleman ends up getting his throat slit, and all the people are like, shit, this escalated too far. We need a bail. We need to get out of here, because what you learn about the larger context of the world is that there's a lot of little rebellions popping up here and there in this kingdom. And like, so the kingdom is like really interested in cracking down on rebellion because they're kind of little pockets popping up everywhere. So then you and your team decide, we're a very small group of people. You know, we can try to be some mercenaries, but we're really small. We need to go to the closest big town and like join up with the little rebel mercenary group there. And so that kind of becomes the guiding thing, the inciting incident that gets the hero to leave the comforts of his little village, right? Typical hero story stuff. But in this case, it's like a hero story with a big group of people, because we're all leaving our little village and we're all striking out into the world to just try to survive. And we're not joining up with this bigger mercenary group because of any grand political beliefs. We just kind of fuck things up in town, and we need someone to protect us.
Right.
And so that's kind of where I stopped now. But like, as it was telling that story, that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And when you get into camp and you start talking with people, some of them are like, oh yeah, because you start off with like your 3 buddies, but then all the other prisoners that were with you in jail become members of your team. So all of a sudden you're like introduced to 5 new characters. And one of the guys on one of your buddies was like, oh yeah, I was, helping Bob, put up a tent, and we kind of became friends. And he's like, oh, this interesting characterization of like my buddy becoming friends with this other random guy just because they're kind of thrown together in this situation. And then another one of my buddies is kind of talking about, oh yeah, eventually we'll go back home. He hasn't quite internalized that they're fleeing for good.
Right.
And then you've got the government spy and her assistant, who are with us temporarily just until they get to a big town. You've got the lady and her sister, who kind of helped incite this whole incident, going with us because they kind of have nowhere else to go. And then you've got like some other random townspeople that are like, well, I'm going with you because I'm now wanted and I kind of had nowhere else to go. And each character developed like a pretty distinct personality. And it's the kind of game where, again, the writing isn't great, but it's doing enough interesting things with the story. It's doing enough like kind of basic characterization to make all the characters stand out. And couple that with a tactics game that is really interesting in that a lot of it is kind of simple, but it does the Fire Emblem weapon triangle type of thing. Excuse me. Where in Fire Emblem, it was like swords are good against axes, axes are good against bows, and bows are good against swords, or something along that lines. Well, it's like a triangle. In this case, you've got axes are good against regular armors, or axes are good against plate armor, swords are good against another type of armor, and arrows are good against cloth armor. So depending on who you're going up against, you want to switch your weapon. And you can switch your weapon at any point in the battle for free for any character. So that means I can have someone who's mainly an archer, but if I need them to get up close and attack a guy with a sword, I can switch to a sword and have them do that without punishing me, right? Like in Baldur's Gate, if you switch your main weapon, that takes your turn. So like switching weapons is a really, really big deal in that game because you use up a whole turn. In this game, it doesn't. So you're encouraged to kind of think about each character having a dual role. Like, I've got an archer who's also a swordsman. Then I've got another axeman who's an archer. Then I've got someone who's got sword. My frontline people are more swords and axes. So everyone kind of has this dual role that you're thinking. And then there's also magic users that you can throw in there as well. But I haven't seen many other games do that, right? Most games, you want to equip your characters with weapons, and that kind of becomes their defining trait. You've got your axemen, you've got your swordsmen, you've got your bowmen, you've got your magic users, and like they're all very defined. And so this game encourages you to kind of mix that up a little bit and have everyone just have the ability to have dual roles. And it's cool. Just recently, the last big fight I was in, I was going up against bosses, and the bosses were neat because it's a grid based game, right? So every character is on a grid. The bosses were really really big, so they took up four spaces, four squares. They had a lot of health and really high defense, but they also had weak points. And the way the game handles weak points is on that four square grid, one of those squares will be weak to swords, and one of those squares will be weak to magic.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
That means you have to line up your character to attack one of those grids. So if like,
Right.
if the sword grid is in the upper right, you can't have your character go down to the bottom left of the boss and attack him. You have to attack that specific spot.
Right.
But then once you do that, the boss will turn to face you. And as it turns, those weak points then turn with it. So you're kind of always thinking one move ahead. Oh, if I'm going to attack with sword here, that's going to have the boss turn, and his magic weak point is then going to be exposed to one of my magic users. That's cool. But then once that turn ends and everyone goes and the boss gets to go, all those weak points reset. And so now it's a different set of weapons in different locations. So every turn you have to like rearrange, like, okay, I set my guys up for these weak spots, but now the change. Now there's no magic weak spots. So I need my magic guys to retreat and I need to bring in my axe guys. But that every time you hit a weak spot, it starts a chain. And the chains do more and more damage over time. So you hit one weak spot, you do like 10 points of damage. You hit a weak spot again, you do 20 points of damage. You hit a weak spot for a third time, you do 40 points of damage. So you really, really want to take advantage of those weak spots. And that means like really thinking through your positioning of these characters. And yeah, it's a system that I hadn't seen in a game before, and it was really cool. It's for a game that started off with me kind of like, oh, come on, let's just get through this. Let me get to a fight. And being kind of really down on it. After playing for a couple hours, I'm really, really impressed at how quickly and how effectively it has turned around for me to become something that I'm genuinely looking forward to playing more of.
Very cool. That's actually, I was expecting you to say that you ended up not liking this game just as you opened this.
Yeah.
And the way that you were describing it, I'm like, okay, he's not going to like it. But it actually sounds like something I might like.
Yeah, it's neat. And like I said, I started off just like, this is kind of mediocre. And look, it is still a budget game.
Right.
And so you kind of have to keep that in mind. But not unsimilar to Path of the Goddess, because it feels like a cheaper game that also feels like it's appealing to a much more niche audience, and it's not trying to be everything to everyone. It's just trying to be a good tactics game. And I like tactics games. So it's hitting me right in my buttons. That means I can look past some of the bad animation. I can look past, some of the lower budget stuff and just appreciate, hey, this game is doing one thing well, but that one thing is what I really enjoy.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
That's mostly it.
All right. Yeah, I don't have
That's
much of anything other than Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which we watched as a group watch. Thank you so much to Pist, who saved it for us, because apparently YouTube is too smart to know that you can't stream on Discord from YouTube. So he had a workaround. So thank God for that. But it was awesome. I enjoyed it a lot.
Good.
I love a good scary movie with a happy ending. And yeah, can't complain. We want to do that again. And we were talking about possibly, was it Tremors that you wanted me to see?
Yeah.
So
Because
about
you haven't seen Tremors, have you?
I haven't seen Tremors.
Yeah. Tonally, it's very similar to Tucker and Dale.
Okay.
In that it's a really good, fun monster movie.
Okay. Good, fun monster movies I'm all about. It's the ones that are not fun that I'm not all about. So, yeah, let's do that. And we did it on a Tuesday, right? Did it last Tuesday.
Yeah, I believe
Is that what
so.
it was, AC Wraith? It was Tuesday that we watched it. I guess we could do it this Tuesday again if you want.
Maybe, but there's also like Olympics.
Yeah,
and-
maybe. Let's take some time off for the Olympics and then we'll do Tremors.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a Tuesday. So yeah, let's take a week or so off for Olympics and then we can do the Tremors thing. But the group stream on Discord worked great. Blood Reaper was there, Pissed was there, AC Wraith was there. Was there anybody else? Can't remember for anybody else. But if you want to be in on this,
oh yeah, you mentioned Blood Reaper.
Yep. If you want to be in on this, you need to join our Discord. There's our Discord link right there. Join our Discord, and you can watch with us whatever we're going to be watching. We are doing it in small groups, so we don't get in trouble. But just us all watching together and enjoying it and being it, and also talking about it afterwards, which is kind of like a book report or a book club, but it's a movie club. We get to watch it and then I'll talk about it later. So yeah. Love to have you join us next time, and we will have future information about that in that same Discord as well as on the show. But the Discord is going to be instantaneous, where you see that information, where you're going to have to wait until the weekend, till Sunday, to see this one. So on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook, wherever you're watching us now. So yeah. All right. Shall we hit the news?
Yeah.
All right. There's a lot of news to talk about. So first off, let's hit the news. This is the GameHounds news, the news, views, and commentary of the week in gaming with Gamer Edie and Nick DiNicola. And our first item is...
Well, we'll probably start with Bungie.
Are you going to start with Bungie and not Game Informer? I didn't even write anything on Game Informer because I figured you had it.
I mean, Bungie feels like the bigger news.
Okay, all right, good. All right. Now, I'm glad that you think that, because I think it's the bigger news. And generally, it's because I'm a finance wonk, and that is not usually what other people think of as being big news. Oh, yeah, okay. So, new report came out from Stephen Totillo over at his new place that was charges an arm and a leg to have access.
No. Jason
Yeah.
Schreier's at Bloomberg. Stephen Totillo has the GameFile newsletter.
Right, GameFile. Yeah, and
Yes.
in order to see it, you had to pay a lot of freaking money, which I didn't. So
It's not that much money. I bought it.
Oh.
GameFile. I get that newsletter. It's really, really good.
Okay. Well, anyway,
Hey,
he had a report, a very damning report, about how Bungie may have misled Sony about its finances and about its value when Sony was acquiring Bungie. Now, just to remind you, in 2022, Sony bought Bungie for $3.6 billion, which was an eye-watering amount at the time. Instantly, almost immediately after that was purchased, Bungie started mass layoffs. And the most recent mass layoffs laid off another 850 people that happened this week. It was a second round of very deep job cuts. And that it was the second one in less than a year. So here they go. They spend $3.6 billion and then they shed like more than half of the company. And it made everybody question, like, why did they spend so much money on a company that needed to for all intents and purposes, shut down? Well, this is according to a couple of former Bungie employees who spoke to Stephen Totillo and about it, and he did a report on GameFile, may have been a little duplicitous. May have been sorry, I've got the wrong things, wrong banner up. May have been a little bit of lying going on about why they spent that much money. According to them, that the actual value of the company was being inflated, or actually what the company was doing was being inflated to Sony, that they were on the verge of bankruptcy when they were purchased from Sony.
And we knew that.
Right.
We knew that came out when Sony purchased them, that like Bungie, basically Sony buying them saved them.
Right. It saved them. But this employee says, quote, "I think Sony overpaid for Bungie." He spoke to Stephen Totillo on the condition of anonymity, of course, but he said, quote, or he said that Sony overpaid because Sony was misled because they were sold, quote unquote, things that Bungie was not able to deliver. And although the Destiny 2 add-on, the new Destiny 2 stuff,
Yeah, the expansion,
expansion,
the final shape,
yeah, it has been widely praised. Totillo was told that these cuts that were going to be made to Bungie were planned long before this expansion was released. And even more interesting is that it seems, obviously, if Bungie had not made this deal with Sony, Bungie would have gone bankrupt. According to the employee, quote, "The alternate history is insolvency."
yeah.
So far, at one point, Bungie had thousands of employees working for it. They've now been reduced down to 850. This is following this latest round of cuts that was announced this week. And Bungie, despite paying $3.6 billion 2 years ago, hasn't released anything outside of Destiny and it's the sequel over the last decade, which is what make everybody go, "Why did you spend that much on a company that hasn't put anything out in a decade?" Well,
I mean, it makes sense in retrospect. Previously, people had speculated that they bought this live service developer as a way to kind of bone up their own live service offerings. And you kind of saw this with rumors about Sony going to Bungie in order to get advice on some other games.
Right, but that makes sense why they bought Bungie. It doesn't make sense of why they paid $3.6 billion for the Bungie. And now we know why they paid $3.6 billion for Bungie. Ostensibly, it is because Bungie was lying and hiding facts about its value. And many former employees are pinning the blame for that solely on Bungie CEO Pete Parsons.
Yeah. So, okay. So some more detail. Specifically about like them selling, you know, being a bit creative with the numbers when Sony bought them. Apparently, since the purchase, Bungie has missed financial targets that they had promised to Sony and has been losing money since the release of Lightfall in February of last year. And their previous expansion, Lightfall, last year, was pretty roundly criticized and despised by fans, and critics. Like, it got a lot of bad reviews. The final shape that came out like just this past month, way better received by critics, but it's apparently sold less than half of what Lightfall did last year.
Yeah, that's what I see right linked. Destiny 2 reportedly sold fewer copies than Lightfall. And you say less than half of what Lightfall?
Less than half.
Wow.
And this comes after a lot of reporting during the last round of layoffs at Bungie that they kind of needed the final shape to have the blockbuster level success in order to, like, for the company to kind of break even. They needed the final shape to be a blockbuster success. And if it sold less than half of like the critically panned expansion, that's kind of why we're in this situation, except that, like you had mentioned earlier, these layoffs were in the works long ago. So this is not just a result of the final shape not selling. these layoffs were kind of always part of the bigger picture for Bungie, even if employees didn't know it.
Yeah. So in another report that is also really interesting, so internet sleuths be sleuthin', and so turns out that same CEO, Pete Parsons, somebody over it was put it out on Twitter with an account called username. Oh, sorry. What was it? It was somebody on Twitter, and I can't remember the name of the person, but they were watching a website called
It's like,
classic car auction site called Bring a Trailer.
yeah,
Somebody noticed that there was somebody on there that was a signed in with the username BNGP Parsons. So,
and
okay, so
apparently also his gamer tag.
right. So, the Valorant Player Association program manager Taylor Broomfall has claimed in a tweet that this account belongs to Pete Parsons, and that account has clocked up more than $2 million of winning bids for classic cars since September 2022, which is when Sony bought Bungie. So, of course, as you know, Sony buys Bungie, right? They immediately have this mass layoff where they fire everybody, and Pete Parsons goes on a $2 million classic car purchasing tear. So yeah, it does not look good. Parsons is facing now has faced in the past calls to resign, but even more so now, he is facing a lot of calls to get the fuck out after the announcement of that, especially since the studio is now laying off even more people. 220 staff, a further 155 to be integrated into Sony, and 40 being quote unquote spun off into a PlayStation studio.
Yes,
So,
which I think is one of the interesting points there, because that feels like, okay, Sony's like, okay, we bought Bungie. This company's like more of a poison pill than we thought.
right.
Let's take some people, create a new internal development studio to
An
create a
incubator,
game
they're calling it.
incubator, a new studio, so that when they make a game, it's not Bungie's making a Sony exclusive game. It's blank is making a Sony exclusive game from X members of Bungie. That's
Right.
like less headline inducing than, oh, Bungie is only making first party games.
Right.
But also it's like, well, at this point the Bungie name is a little toxic, so maybe we should get away from that.
Yeah. Win-win. We get to be able to not have like Bungie criticisms of Bungie, and at the same time we don't have to have all the things that Bungie, all the baggage that Bungie is bringing at this point because they've screwed their name.
And it also feels like a way to kind of, it's not bailing water out of a sinking ship, but it's like, it's a lifeboat. Oh, we want to take some employees, put them over here to create something new. Kind of take some planks from the boat that's already sinking to create a lifeboat. Because like, look, the boat's sinking anyways. Who cares? But it's a way to like salvage something from the company. Since at this point, is Marathon even going to come out? Like, they've been working on it a while, but at the same time, it's a hero-based extraction shooter, which is not a genre that is like kind of typically set the live service world on fire. And so questions of how popular will it actually be are pretty important, especially for someone like Bungie who needs the game to be a hit.
Yep. So yeah, it all looks bad. It all looks bad. It makes Pete Parsons just personally makes Bungie looks bad. It makes Pete Parsons look horrible. Absolutely horrible. And AC Ray, thank you, but I would not be able to get him a whole fleet with those auction skills. I could get him a whole fleet of refrigerators filled with frozen turkeys for that, but probably not classic cars.
Could you get a fleet of classic cars filled with frozen turkeys?
I could absolutely do that, and I have the turkeys because they're in my fleet of refrigerators right now. All right. So yeah, that is all the dish that's going down at Bungie. I would venture to guess with more people losing their jobs, more factoids are going to start coming out, more tea is going to get spilt. We're going to find out a lot more, and I have a distinct feeling that Pete Parsons is not going to come out of this looking good. It will be very hard for him to recover from this. Fun fact.
You would hope.
When you're firing more than half of your company in over 2 years, especially after selling your company for $3.6 billion after you lied about the value of it, here's a little tip. When you go on a tear to buy $2 million of classic cars, don't use your gamer tag as your name. What a fucking idiot. What? I mean, I don't even use Gamer Edie when I'm like writing nasty reviews on Yelp because I don't want to attach it to anything. Jesus. When I'm out spending my $2 million on classic cars that I have taken from all of you at $1 a month for the last 15 years, I have a whole different name. Now you know where all your money's going. Frozen turkeys.
Yeah, I mean, the frozen turkey stock is due for a boom.
Oh, it
And you're going to be there.
absolutely is. Oh, we're getting close to
You're going to be there
Thanksgiving.
to flood the
These are
market.
vacuum sealed, deep frozen. They're still perfect as they came as the day they came out of the small heritage farm that they were originally at. They're perfect. And Thanksgiving's coming.
Hold on to that stock.
That's right. Yep. Normandy, Normandy 2, Normandy 3, Normandy 4. Anyway, so enough about Benji. Next item is
So you reminded me of another news story, and I have two potential segues to take.
okay.
Let's talk about
Oh
Xbox.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
It's sneaky.
yeah, it's not really. Because their gaming revenue grew 44% in the quarter. That's
Yeah,
pretty good, right? That's
yeah.
really good.
It's
Except
really good.
except that
Except
48% of that came from Activision, which
right
means without Activision, it would have been down
down.
4%.
Yeah.
And like at a certain point,
This is
at a
does
certain point,
Pete Parsons work for Xbox?
well, at a certain point, we will have to stop like separating the Xbox revenue from the Activision revenue because they all the same.
Right,
They're the
but
same.
not right now.
But
Not right now.
But like what it does, and the reason that like we split it out like that is because Activision, for a while, asshole CEO aside, was like a well-oiled machine that printed money.
It did. Absolutely.
Xbox was not. Xbox was kind of suffering from a decline. So when you buy the well-oiled machine that prints money and puts it on top of that, it looks a lot better. But the point in separating these things out is that we can still see Xbox is still losing money. And
Yeah.
like whatever internal issues they have, they're still there. Whatever fundamental problems
And the
they have
fundamental
at that
problems are
section.
going to follow into the money printing company. They're going to infect the money printing
Yes.
company.
It
And
will be.
next year is going to be, or next reporting cycle is going to be very interesting when they can no longer separate the two.
Well, like you could separate the two, but what I'm interested in seeing is I want to see how well Activision does in the winter quarter when
Right.
Call of Duty comes out on Game Pass.
Yeah.
I want to see how that affects the fiscals. Does it still stay high,
I
or
think
does
they
Game
want to
Pass cut into the revenue?
I think everybody wants to know that because that's going to be the ultimate test. This is going to be like they've been a lot of speculation, but nobody's been able to have an actual test of does Game Pass hurt or help.
Yeah.
Now
And I'm sure that
we will have an actual experiment. And that's what this is. This is a grand experiment. Very expensive grand experiment, but this is a grand experiment, and Spencer and everybody, Spencer and everybody else are all banking on them being right, but they don't know because nobody does. It's never been tested like this.
Yeah. And like the Game Pass question is, I'm sure it varies developer by developer, right?
Mhm.
I'm sure it's great for some. I'm sure it's not so great for others.
Right.
But it's interesting to kind of see. We just got out of a months long situation where Hollywood went all in on streaming and realized that doesn't work.
Yeah.
That streaming is actually really, really fucking expensive to maintain because you need to keep creating content for those streaming services while also maintaining the servers for those services, all of which is really, really expensive.
Right.
Netflix gets away with it because Netflix has a scale that no one else can match.
Right.
And unfortunately, what we've seen with Game Pass is that it's kind of topped out at like 34 million, I think was the last reported number, which is like, it's a good number, but those are peacock numbers.
Right.
But in addition to that, Xbox hardware fell 42% from last quarter, which it had also fallen like 40% from the quarter before and like 40% the year before. But that's not really surprising considering Microsoft is now advertising the fact that you don't need an Xbox. They
Yeah.
are selling.
They're selling sticks, Amazon Fire sticks and
Yes.
controllers.
And so, they've gone all in on the Xbox without a console
Right.
mentality. So it makes sense to see that decline year over year.
Yeah.
We'll have to see, like, do the services compensate for that? Or I know that they had also planned, they're speculated to announce a new console at Gamescom.
Okay.
Not a new console, but like a refresh of the current gen. Like a diskless Xbox Series X, something
Mhm.
like that, or an all streaming device, something along these lines. Excuse me. Because they've also announced that they will have a very big presence at Gamescom.
Mhm.
And I'll be interested to see how that new console sells.
Yep. Speaking of Gamescom, looks like we're not going to go to PAX this year, even though we wanted to.
Shut up. The cat is just like, wow, 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 because he wants to be let out. Okay, do you want to get out? You want to leave? Leave and don't come back. Okay.
So, we were thinking of going to PAX, but unfortunately that decision was made after media registration was closed. So we're not going to PAX. I have to remind me to cancel the Airbnb. But for the price that we could go up to Seattle, the prices of the flights to Seattle right now, we could go to Germany and go to Gamescom. Do you want to go to Gamescom?
I mean, those tickets are probably even more expensive, right?
I will look at that.
At this
I will try
point,
and figure it. I will try and figure it. I'll see what I can do. We'll see. We'll look into it because we've been talking about doing this for a lot of years. And the thing that has been an impediment for us is because it's right after PAX. So this would be like if we're ever going to have the year that we go internationally to like another gaming convention, this would be it.
I mean, not necessarily. We could do it any year.
Yeah, but it's a little hard because we will want to go to PAX, and if we go to PAX, you're going to want to go to PAX because it's cheaper. And once you go to PAX, then you don't want to go to Gamescom because you just got off the plane. This is the one year.
Yeah, I'm looking at some flights, and we could go to Frankfurt for 860.
Yeah.
Or we could go to Munich for 1,000. Oh wait, where's Gamescom? Gamescom is Cologne, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just 1,100.
Well, there's other places. We can
That's
look.
nothing.
We can look. What you do is you
And that's
and then take Ryanair or you take
and
EasyJet.
that is the absolute
bucks.
minimum price. The truth is, it's probably going to be like $500 more.
Well, yeah. Well, no. Well, you know me. I find deals. I can find a deal.
Okay, well, we'll see. I wanna
You're,
save
you're searching
some
like
money.
a pedestrian.
We
Like a
we
civilian.
me and Rachel are planning to go to Spain over Thanksgiving week.
Oh,
So
that's
look, I got to save up some money for that.
right. Okay.
That means not buying headsets and instead just spending my money on games.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, fiscal quarter Xbox
Yeah.
numbers are a little fishy. Let's just say they weren't
Well,
great.
it basically
but
shows
they're
that like
fishy.
they really needed Activision.
They really
Like,
needed Activision. You
we can
think Activision
discuss.
that we were talked originally, we're like Activision was being bailed out because of the lawsuits, and now we realize no, Microsoft was being bailed out from a really dismal year.
Yeah.
And if they didn't close, their stock price was going to go through the floor, and it was going to take the entire company with it. Because when people bail from Xbox, they don't bail from Xbox stock. They bail from Microsoft stock. That's a very different thing.
I mean, at that point, I feel like Microsoft would just divest of Xbox.
Probably.
Right? They would either sell it to someone else or like, hey, we're divesting of this. Phil Spencer, you're now CEO of Xbox, which is its own company.
Yeah. It'd be questionable whether how much that would cost them. They would probably have to do different kinds of games, that's for sure. If they were doing this on their own without, Mama
Sure.
Xbox paying for Mama's Microsoft paying for everything.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, both Sony and Microsoft are like the gaming divisions are part of much larger companies. Nintendo's the only one that's just straight games.
That's why Nintendo can do what it does, because that's all it does, and you don't have to worry about upsetting investors who don't understand the gaming market because Nintendo is the gaming market.
And yet,
only.
They are arguably the company that takes the most risks.
Because they can. Because
you would think having the financial backing of a giant would allow you to take.
No. Exactly the opposite. If you have the investing money from a giant, a legacy stock like my Sony and like Microsoft, you have got investors, people that buy that stock that don't understand the risks and the volatility of the game market. And people that are investing in Nintendo know exactly what they're getting into. They're getting into a company that's making games, not computers, not movies, not headsets, nothing. They make games and game consoles and games for those game consoles only.
You did remind me, on one of Stephen Totillo's newsletters, Game File, at the very end, he has like a bullet points of just like, here's a couple random news things. One of which was an item from Capcom's investor call, where one of the investors was like, so, the numbers, they're looking good, but what if you put out the next Monster Hunter in fall 2024? That would make the numbers look better, right? And Capcom was basically said, we take all comments and considerations seriously. That's it. It's like, thank you for your comment. We will consider that.
That's right.
But what Totillo highlighted was like, some investors, like, they just don't fucking understand what they're investing in. It's like, yeah, we see the numbers look good. What if you take this thing that you're working on and just put it out now? Right? Like, what if you stop working on it and just put it out? That would be better, right? The number go up.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things like anyone who knows the industry, you read that and you just shake your head like you moron.
Yeah. That is one of the downsides of
being public.
Oh, hold on a second. Yes, that's one of the problems from being public. Sorry, I just got a text from the daughter.
Are you going to respond?
Yes, I'm doing it
Do,
right now.
okay, do you want to let us in on this drama?
Okay, so what do you know what I mean when I say the daughter?
I do. I don't know if all the viewers do.
I'll say it. A cute one. Okay. All right, so boyfriend, whose house I'm in right now. Daughter, 13 years old. Been slowly developing a relationship with her. She is the boyfriend and daughter are not here right now because they are at Valley Fair Mall, which is a massive mall down here. And she knows that I have a very coveted pair of Gentle Monster glasses from Korea. She doesn't know that I actually originally bought those for her, but her father wouldn't let me give them to her. They were kind of a bribe. So the thing is, Valley Fair Mall is one of the few places in the United States that has a Gentle Monster store. And the whole thing about these glasses is that they have detachable charms. Sides, like these things that are hanging off, are detachable and you can buy new ones. And they are highly collectible, as in, like, you go on eBay and these normally pay $35 for one of these charms. They're going for like $200 on eBay.
Fucking God.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So she's at Valley Fair Mall. And, it's still hard to read whether she likes me or not. But she just texted me and says, "Hey, I'm at Valley Fair Mall. Do you want me to go by the Gentle Monster store and see if there are any charms that I can pick up for you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, do I want more?"
Wait, so she knows you have those?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
'Cause
but she thinks they're yours.
yeah, they are mine.
Okay.
Because I bought them because I was waiting for them to. I mean, they were snapped up the instant they went live, but I was there and I beat out a whole lot of bots, and like essentially scalpers to get a pair for myself. So I got not a pair I really wanted, but ones that are good enough. And when I got them, I said to Chris that he could give them to his daughter for her birthday and he'd be the best dad ever. And he's like, "No." And I'm like, "Well, can I give them to her? Because then I would like, she'd love me forever." And he's like, "No, not a 13-year-old is not getting a $350 pair of glasses." I'm
What
like,
the fuck?
"They're really nice glasses." So, I mean, I could
Are they-
sell them.
Are
I
they,
could
are
sell them
they
right
at least
now.
polarized?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yes.
Okay, okay.
And so I said, "Well, I've already bought them. I can either sell them or keep them myself." And I kind of like them. So I kept them. So now it actually worked out well because whenever I wear them, she thinks it's so cool. So I went like up in the opinion meter. And now she's like, "Do you want me to find you charms if I can at the Gentle Monster store?"
Oh, well,
And I just
that's
texted her
nice.
back and she's like, "Okay, we're trying to find it now," because it's hard to find stores because Valley Fair is so big. But she and her friend who were spending the day at the mall are going over to the Gentle Monster store to see if they can find me some charms.
That's sweet.
It's working. It's working. It seems to be going well. She has already said when school starts next year, the way her dad explains math is ludicrous and she can't understand it. If I could help her with English and algebra, she'd appreciate it.
Okay, that's good.
Apparently, I'm going to be helping her with her algebra homework instead of her dad because she doesn't like the way her dad explains it.
He's just not a good teacher.
He's not a good teacher. No, he's dad. He's dad. Dad's anybody other than dad is always going to be better. Just by definition, parents, 13-year-old girls, it's the way that is. Anyway, did you really put a banner of Edie's boyfriend update?
We changed subjects.
Anyway, so yeah, I had to reply because anybody else I'd ignore, but Claire.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll just say slight
All
segue.
massive 2024. Yes, Valley Fair. I mean, Nick, have you been to Valley Fair?
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. Am I wrong that
know.
mall is vast and
Oh. It never felt
labyrinthine.
that big. It felt like a big mall, but
It felt like a big labyrinth. Like you walk like 20 feet down one direction and you're like, oh no, I want to go back to that store. And you turn around, go back, and that store's no longer there. Because you walked, you swear you only move 20 feet north, but when you go 20 feet south, exactly following your steps, you're in a totally different place again. And it's like, how did I lose it? I just saw it. And of course, on a weekend, yeah, during summer months, it's just nothing but teenage girls, wall to wall teenage girls with boba tea.
I mean, honestly, that's good. It's good to see malls being populated again.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. Just,
nature is healing.
AC Ray says, "Good luck, Double Fine. We love you." Yeah, true. And he says, "At least you can hold the charms as opposed to Roblox." Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
She is absolutely addicted to Roblox. She's
I
got to grow out of that one of these days.
was also saying, in terms of overpriced things, I
Mhm.
saw a headline just the other day that because of the success of Deadpool and Wolverine,
Yeah, which
the
I saw. It is amazing.
the Deadpool game for PS4 that has since been delisted from digital stores briefly was the price on sellers had like gone up to $900 to $1,000.
What? Did anybody buy it at that
I
price?
don't think so. I just checked now, and the prices are all back down to like $100, which is a bit more
No,
reasonable for a game that's like been delisted.
Yeah.
There was still a couple that are like, buy it now for $970.
Mhm.
And it's like, no, don't do that. Don't be an idiot.
Okay, hold on a second. I need to get out of that standby. All right, cool. So yeah. But yeah, if you didn't see Deadpool versus Wolverine, it's so good. So good. Really
It's
good.
fun. It's fun. It's a good movie. It's fun.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman and Ryan. Did you see the Wrexham inside joke?
I know he had a cameo as Welsh Pool.
Yes, there's a Welsh pool in it. It was one
Yeah.
of the in that one scene with all the Deadpools, and there
Yeah.
is a Deadpool with the Welsh flag. Yeah. As soon as
I
I saw it,
also
I'm like, I
I
know
do
that's
know that apparently Rob McElhenney, who he owns
who?
Wrexham with, Rob McElhenney,
Yeah,
no, had a cameo in the movie,
I didn't
which
see it. I went
which
looking.
because it got cut.
Oh no. Let's see. After 11 years, fans still think the Deadpool game cost $100 million to make, but one of the original devs says that's ridiculous. $100 million, it's GTA level money. Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it took. I remember that game. It was not $100 million game.
No, it was not. All right. So, next item. It's not Edie's boyfriend update.
Okay, I kind of have all. It's all bad news.
Oh no, well, no. You just had yours. I'll do mine. Let's see, how many do you have? One. Okay, you have 3. The 3 that are up there, right?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, let me do one because I have 2 more, and that would leave you with.
Well, okay, you're also missing one.
I am.
We'll just talk about the Game Informer news.
Oh yeah. Because did you not put Game Informer up? That you didn't. That's right. I figured. Let's do the Game Informer because that's absolutely critical. That's right up there with Bungie. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just say, I found that to be less surprising than Bungie, just because look, Game Informer was owned by GameStop, and I'm impressed and surprised that it lasted this long.
I am too. I always figured that it was because maybe Game Informer was making money. Because how did it stay less? I would have figured that would have been one of the first things that they would have gotten rid of. There had to have been some kind of profit core there, whether it was advertising or whether it was driving metrics to games that would be favorable to have a run on for purchase by and selling by GameStop, there had to have been something within Informer that positively affected the bottom line for GameStop. I don't know what it was, but clearly whatever it was it enough to keep it going for this long. And it considering how badly GameStop has been doing for as long as it has been, this has to be, I think, the biggest news about it, other than the fact that it's shutting down like the oldest currently published game magazine, still being published game magazine.
Yeah, I think now the only ones that are left are like based in the UK.
Right.
or
Right. And
based in
they
other
weren't
countries.
as old as Game Informer. So I think that the fact, beyond that fact, that the big takeaway from it is that GameStop is on the verge of completely collapsing. They would not have sold it. They kept it for a reason. That reason had to have been that it made money for them in one way, shape, or form. I don't think that that has changed. And if they're shutting it down, not selling it, shutting it down, that means GameStop is on the verge of insolvency.
We can only hope.
It's true. As absolutely true. But that's what I think is the big news out of that nobody's talking about.
Yeah. It's sad and that everyone's lost a job, especially because it was still a really good quality magazine.
It was a good quality magazine. That was the other thing, is it might have been like a trade rag by a retailer, but it was still a really good one. It was independent. It did give good information. They did real reporting. It was a solid games magazine.
Yeah. Like I said, I think everyone that was there knew enough that they knew that every day that went by
It was like a mitzvah.
gravy. It was like, we lost another day.
That's
But
right.
then it just starts over the next.
It's like they knew that they were a condemned criminal on death row, and it was like, when is the day that their board is finally going to show up and march you down to the firing line? They knew it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that GameStop is going to be very, very, very interesting to watch in the next, I would say, 6 months. I think that we're gonna. This is my prediction, is that they're not going to last. It's certainly not going to last another year by selling Game Informer. I think that was what the clue is. That's what it's indicative of. Yeah, and that they didn't sell it because they could have probably sold it, or maybe they tried to and couldn't find anyone to buy it. Because I mean,
yeah, I don't think they even tried.
Yeah, that strikes me as very strange, and also a little sus that it is the beginning of the end, because that means you're not trying to save the company. Like, okay, Embracer Group. You know that they were selling stuff, bargain basement, blowing it out, getting rid of IPs, doing whatever they could do, selling everybody, closing studios, right? But the whole time I'm like, this is the motions that are being made by a scrappy company that's doing everything it can to stay afloat, that it is trying to right the ship. It is bailing this boat as fast as it possibly can because it wants to survive. GameStop selling Game Informer, GameStop closing Game Informer, and not even bothering to sell it, not even bothering to go through the effort of selling it, because somebody would have known if they were going to try and sell it, tells me that that's someone who's just given up and just sinking. Just like, no point in bailing. Why waste your time? It's over. Just get rid of it. Just shut it down. Shut it down. This is someone who's given up. They don't have a will to live.
Like I said, we can only hope, if only so that then maybe some mom and pop game stores can start popping back up.
Yeah. Yeah, because honestly, I'm not saying if, when GameStop finally collapses, and for God's sakes, I wish it would. Right now in particular, because retail space throughout the country is pretty cheap right now. I think that has the possibility of being a renaissance for mom and pop game companies, game retailers that do more than just hire people at minimum wage, treat them like shit, and only just want to rape their customers for money. These are the ones that are going to be like the equivalent of tabletop gaming D&D stores, where there's more going on. They're not just there. I mean, they're there to sell items, but the way that they do it is by creating a community around the store through tournaments, through events, through giveaways that are part of the community of the gamers in that neighborhood. They become a neighborhood business. This has a possibility of happening.
I also think this is just kind of there's been a kind of a slow turn against digital distribution, and I think physical media is kind of on the rise. I've definitely heard that like Blu-ray movies sell more this year than they did last year or the year before. So especially with all the news stories about, things getting delisted, that Deadpool game in question, it's physical media is in a turn. We had, several decades of everything going all digital, and I think the tides are slightly changing. So if there was a time to kind of get on the ground floor of that, this would be it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, hey, if GameStop goes under, do you want to start a game store in San Mateo?
San Mateo is really expensive. I don't want to start a game store here. That wouldn't be tenable.
Yeah, maybe Redwood City, Belmont, Burlingame.
I want to keep all those games for myself.
I know, but you could get those games for yourself, and then you could also sell them to to other people. We could do it. We could make a hell of a store between the two of us.
Running a business is a lot of work.
I
don't know if I want to dedicate myself to that much work, because the more I work in a game store is less time I could spend playing games.
Yeah, but what is working in a game store other than playing games and talking to people about games?
What if we just play a co-op game of like game dev company? Game dev tycoon?
Game dev, no. Games, let's see, what would that be? Game store tycoon. Oh, there's an idea for, a game for us, Game Store Tycoon. It's like in the post-game GameStop world. Yeah, we could do it. Okay, anyway, my next...
It says, perhaps people loving the subscription pass games should not invest in physical media. Why not?
I think he's poking at me that I've been the one that has been in the digital distribution bus since it started back 15 years ago, when I was arguing with Hawks that I don't care about physical discs. I want my games right now because it's convenient. But the thing is that 15 years ago, what was my option? My option was Electronics Boutique, which was fine, or GameStop. That's all you could do to go buy games. I had no inclination to go down to buy a GameStop, a game at GameStop, because it would just walk in, pay some money, walk out. Why would I travel 20 minutes to a GameStop to go in for 5 minutes to 20 minutes back when I could literally buy it and in that amount of time have it downloaded? That being said, that's the whole problem with putting it all in GameStop's hands, is that once digital media went away, there's no other reason to come into GameStop. None. Not Funko Pops, not Pokemon stuffed animals. Yeah, not Pokemon cards. None of that is going to bring me in there to go do anything. It was the game. So when the digital games collapsed, the physical discs and digital distribution collapsed, digital distribution took over, GameStop was dead in the water because they had nothing else going for them. That's why things like Electronics Boutique were awesome, because they would have cool reasons to go in. People you knew. Events. I'm going to be down there anyway this weekend. I'll just pick it up this weekend because they're having this tournament or they're having this release party or they're doing something cool. They're letting everybody in after hours to play, something together.
Yeah, you know what? It is
Have a
unfortunate that
old-fashioned party.
we kind of lost out on the midnight release party.
Yeah.
Right? Especially now with a lot of games being, oh, if you pay more, you can play it 3 days early.
Yeah.
Or rather, if you pay less, you'll get it 3 days later.
That was the only fun that I ever had going down to GameStop and standing in line because I had the ticket to get it day one was the first expansion for World of Warcraft. And the line was around the block and we all hung out and we had a great time and we all laughed and people were handing out beers and sodas. They brought down like
man.
snacks and we just
That's a
had a
cool
great
line.
time standing in line. And it was fun. We were talking about our characters and what we were doing and
What was the line for this?
Huh?
What was this line for? What game?
Oh, for the first expansion of World of Warcraft.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was an event. You stood in line and we had a great time standing in line and talking to other people who were into World of Warcraft as much as we were, which was hard to find. We found our fellow brethren. We found our bumblebees, the field of bumblebees. We were the bumblebees and we found our field. And it was like we all grooved together and we got each other. And it was a great feeling. That was the only time that I ever had any inclination to go to a GameStop, and it was the most fun that I ever had at a GameStop. And
Yes,
that's
once the midnight release parties go away, the reason to congregate there kind of went away.
What? Electronics Boutique is not my area. Yeah, EB Games. It was EB stands for Electronics Boutique. We were Electronics Boutique.
Yeah, AC right there. Is that a weird California thing? What, the midnight release parties?
No,
I don't think that was just a California thing. It was
oh,
a thing for a very short period of time in
when
the
Halo
arc.
came out, the line for
But it was
Halo
not just a California
York
thing.
was literally across Manhattan.
I don't think it was that long.
It was pretty close. It was a thing. It was such a big deal that Steve Jobs, other guy,
Omar.
huh? No. Bill Gates.
Walmart?
Bill Gates showed up to sell the first copy of Halo at.
Oh yeah.
He
No, he said we had Electronics Boutique, but it was nothing like you described.
Oh, we had our Electronics Boutique was actually really cool.
Oh, just a tiny mall store, no events.
Yeah, no, it was our Electronics Boutiques early on. The Electronics Boutiques were a mall store, but they were cool mall store. The really fun ones were the mom and pops that GameStop just murdered. Just downright murdered. Those can come back again because that feeling of needing simpatico, that feeling of needing community, honestly, I think is even harder now than it was before. Because you have a lot of game demographics are now pretty sectionalized. Like more people are playing games. Absolutely. Almost everybody's playing games. That being said, everybody's playing different games. Like I don't understand Roblox. That's as foreign to me as soap operas at this point.
I don't know about that, and that can go into another news story. I think it's less everyone's playing different games and more everyone is playing the same 5 games. Everyone is playing Fortnite, Apex Legends, Call of Duty
Except for the
Warzone.
people that aren't playing those games, and
But
that's
those
why
people,
we're the
those
right.
people,
We're
those
the
people are like 2% of the population.
Right. But 2% of the population for a mom and pop store is a lot of money. That's a lot of money, especially in an area that's heavily populated like the Bay Area, big cities. You can make a living doing that. You can make a very successful store. Is it going to be GameStop successful? No. But it's going to be able to pay your bills and put your kids through college and buy you a house and maybe let you sell it and retire comfortably. Because that's all that
have a store that
retail
regularly holds Warzone or Apex Legends or Fortnite tournaments.
Mhm.
That's what you need.
Right. And also midnight releases of some like big games, like the next Elden Ring, fucking have a midnight release at the Elden Ring. Now, you might not be releasing the physical disc. They might not do. They might do a physical disc, but you could release like the collector's edition of the game, or just have a party to just have copies of the game on console that people can come in and play. It will bring people in, and it will build that community, and community will spend money. Gaming cafes, a game store, game cafe, I think would do really fucking well here.
Yeah.
Also a saloon format, but that's a whole nother ball of wax. I think I want to open a saloon format on the peninsula. We'd make so much money.
Is that okay?
A saloon format?
Is that
it's exactly what it sounds like.
Is that a salon/laundromat or a saloon/laundromat? So you want someone to come in, do the laundry, and then get drunk?
Yeah, no, you come in, you have a laundromat on one side. On the other side, you have tables and couches and big TVs where everybody can watch the game and have a beer and a chili dog or whatever and just hang out and do something. Because all the people that are in a laundromat, they're just sitting around like staring at each other. You can't leave the laundromat because somebody will steal your clothes. So you're stuck. And all you're doing is stuck sitting there twiddling your thumbs. Boring. What you got to do is you got to keep them there and get them buying beer.
Beer is a good thing.
And pizza and hot dogs and boba tea and coffee in the morning and a Sunday morning where I could do my laundry and get pancakes and coffee and watch a game for 2 hours.
AC Wraith had a good idea for an event. Stream Critical Role on big screens Thursday nights.
Absolutely. That would absolutely.
Although that might go over better for like a tabletop store than a game store.
Or a saloon-dramat. Do your laundry on a Thursday night while you watch Critical Role on big screens and eat pizza and hot dogs and tea and drink beer. Or soda. Boba tea. I'm telling you. And whenever there's like a big television spectacle, play it, whatever big Netflix thing's coming out.
Yeah, well, we'll show the director's cut of Rebel Moon and the saloon.
No, HBO, like what was that, House of the Dragon? Like do the whole House of the Dragon.
Okay, that might actually get people to show up.
See what I mean? House of the Dragon, something like an HBO thing when they're just releasing it once a week, not binging it. Yep. See, this would make money. This would make money. Because the profit, first off, laundromats make a fuck ton of money just standing alone. But then you throw on top of it, charging $1 for 5 cents worth of popcorn. Beer and wine licenses are not hard to get. Especially, we know, clean-cut people like us. Beer and wine license. Or get a location that has a beer and wine license and put in a laundromat.
Okay, I will let you take point on that.
All right.
In the meantime,
yes.
Down
a rabbit. Wow, was that a rabbit hole?
Speaking of games that a lot of people are playing, or less people now, the community director of Power World has clarified statements that he said back in February. So back in February, a month after the game came out, a lot of people were making headlines saying, "Oh, the game has lost 80% of its player base."
Right.
And he had commented that there are so many amazing games out there to play. If you're still playing Power World, we love you. If you're no longer playing it, we still love you. You know, that type of thing. So during a recent conversation with the YouTube channel Going Indie, he talked more about that. And he said, "I don't think it really serves anyone." This is the Power World community manager. "I don't think it really serves anyone to kind of push gamers to play the same game day in and day out. There are games you can play every single day for months on end and never burn out, such as most MMOs, but they're designed to be like that. And he says that there's now a push for players to play that way with all games, even games that don't have long-term play in mind. This kind of brings us back to the Mana Lords discussion of a couple weeks ago. He said, I don't think you need to be pushing yourself to play the same game all the time. It's not healthy for us. It's not healthy for developers. It's not healthy for gamers. It's not healthy for gaming media. And it's just not healthy for our industry, because the more we push this kind of narrative, the more very large companies are going to say gamers want more live service. And we're just going to get more of these really soulless live service games that come out and then get shut down 9 months later, 12 months later, because they're not making enough money. And we all lose in that case. Conquered.
Mm-hmm.
His solution is play all the indies you can. Spend as much money on indies as you can. Really, really support the guys who are just trying to make fun games. Who cares if there's only 5 people playing it? Just enjoy yourself. Just enjoy games. I don't think it needs to be any more complex than that. And I really appreciate that, because I think he hits on a sentiment that I do think has kind of infected the games industry, which, like I said, harkens back to the discussion about Mana Lords a couple weeks ago, when someone was saying, oh, if you're in early access like Mana Lords, you need this content pipeline. Got to have a content pipeline ready to push out new things month in and month out. And what this guy is speaking to is the live servicification of all games media, of all industry, right? The fact that player count is now a number that we regularly use to measure a game's success, even for single player games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense. And it's not healthy, because that means if you design a game, like something like Path of the Goddess, designed to be played through once and then you move on to something else, all of a sudden it looks like a failure when a month later fewer people are playing it, even though that's kind of the regular cycle of these things. And the reason live service is so hard is because it takes, look at Destiny. Bungie has said Destiny is a very expensive game to make. They don't have the resources to make a game like Destiny, a live service game, consistently to the quality that a lot of players expect and hope for. And that kind of goes for all live service games. So when the whole industry pushes into this one genre that it turns out is really expensive to make, you kind of get a boom and bust cycle, a lot like Hollywood did when it kind of pushed into streaming.
Right.
And I think what we're seeing now is kind of a lot of the consequences of that, we've pushed into live service and we made that a big selling point for investors. But as a result, there's like 5 to 10 big live service games that 90% of the gaming population are playing at the expense of everything else. They've just swallowed the industry whole. Yeah. And I personally, I think that's why you're kind of seeing a big shrinkage at a lot of companies, and a lot of companies firing people, because they're all fighting for scraps at the table.
Right. They're fighting for the 2%.
Yeah. And then you have other games like Sony coming out with Conquered that by all means looks like a good game, but it's trying to be one of those 5 to 10 games that you always play. And those 5 to 10 games have established themselves. You can't break into that.
No.
Not anymore.
No. Speaking of which, along those lines, and something I forgot until just now, I can't believe I forgot it, because, I mean, it's kind of important to one of our, one of the GameHounds staff, AC Wraith. Humble.
Oh, yeah.
Humble Games has announced that it is restructuring and fired all of its 36 staff, which is a way of saying we are shutting down. And this came without notice. It's sad. Everybody's laid off entirely. They started in 2017, and not only are they a bundling company, they are also a publisher. I mean, that's the biggest thing that they do, is as a publisher. And just last week, it had published Bo, The Path of the Teal Lotus from developer Squid Shock Studios. And Squidshock was, to say the least, caught flat-footed, like a deer in the headlights.
Well, yeah,
Quote,
anyone that had games publishing
right.
under Humble like now, they didn't get any notice of this. So all
They
of a
didn't get
sudden,
it
these
right.
games are out of a publisher.
Right. And in the case of Bo, it had literally just launched. So Kenny Schwartz of Squidshock Studios said, quote, like most Humble games today, I was notified that we were being laid off this morning. So as much as a bummer as it is to be in this position, I still appreciate it's been an amazing experience to work with so many wonderful, talented people. Squidshock's in the wake of that, Squidshock went to Twitter and released this statement. It's just a sad time for the industry. Let's see if I can actually read the whole thing because it was on a picture. Here we go. It says, it has been a hectic 2 weeks since we launched. Oh, come on. Let's show me bigger. I want to see bigger, please. Oh, I guess I'm not going to get to see bigger. That sucks. It's been a hectic 2 weeks since we launched our first game, Bo, Path of the Teal Lotus. We were delighted with the overall reception Bo had, and we're already responding to player feedback to further improve the experience. Despite this, our launch was not without its challenges. Our publisher shutting down has meant that we've missed out on critical post-launch support, which may put our studio's future at risk. We want to make it clear that this was in no way the fault of Humble Games team we worked with. It was just a sad time in the industry, and ultimately we understand. On July 25th, we lost access to the pipeline of critical systems without warning. We can currently only manage the game on Steam, and we were able to publish an update this week. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for consoles. Porting and QA support was tied to our deal with our publisher, and at the time of writing, we still do not have that pipeline restored. However, steps are finally being taken to restore access. We have so much planned for our studio beyond small updates for our game. Bo began as a community endeavor where backers believed in us and supported us with initial funding on Kickstarter. We've explored every possible option to deliver the future content we had planned, and we've decided to create a Patreon account for those who would like to support us. Thanks again for your understanding and support. Please consider checking out our Patreon. So they're going to Patreon to help them, because if they don't, it actually could take down their studio, because they released their game. Now they were supposed to get, like, work, make game, release game, make money. At the point of release game and make money, the publisher stopped working. That is devastating, because now, like I said, they can't even do the updates. They can't even fix any problems that they were anticipating fixing, or any added features that were supposed to be out. So people that bought on Humble will never be able to get those updates. They can't service those customers, leaving them with a bad taste in their mouth and lost money on the table. And they've already spent, they released, they've spent all the money that they were supposed to recoup, and now they can't recoup it. It's terrible. So it's not just a tragedy for all of us, because Humble Bundles were absolutely fantastic. It is a tragedy for all of the developers, and particularly the ones that had games released just before, in the window of a month to 2 months before the departure of Humble, because they're the ones that actually spent the most amount of cash and got the least back before the publisher shut down.
Well, they're still doing the bundles.
They're still doing the bundles,
Like
right?
they're still doing that part of the business.
Right,
This is
that's the
just the
restructuring.
game
They
publishing.
said that they're restructuring, and and at this point, they might as well just sell the bundles, because at least it's money. It's coming in. They don't have to spend a lot of money. There's no people involved in it. You could have a skeleton crew, if that. Just make sure that, like, somebody's like depositing the checks. That's about it.
Yeah, they need someone to set up those bundles.
That could be one person. Check. Give it a name. Sell it. So, yeah, kind of sucks. And I know AC Wraith is breaking her heart, because they were in Why the frill does Inverse not let you copy article titles? I don't know. A traumatizing experience. Indie devs speak out on Humble Bundle layoffs. Yeah, that it happened without warning. You wake up one morning and your publisher is gone. But yeah, they're saying restructuring, but it's hard to restructure when you fire everybody in the company.
Yeah, well, they're not really restructuring.
They're restructuring as an
they're-
X company.
their restructuring has the Humble company, but the Humble Publishing was a small part of Humble Games, right?
Right,
Or
right.
Humble Games was a small part of the greater Humble company. So the
Mhm.
greater Humble company is restructuring by getting rid of Humble Games.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm sorry. That's a huge, huge blow.
Yeah,
Humble
and
layoff,
it speaks to like a really hard industry because Humble Games, like they put out a lot of stuff, but they still managed to get on like a hit indie game, once or twice a year, which is kind of a good batting average for a publisher, right? Not when you publish a game, not everything is gonna go
Hey,
viral, not everything is gonna get hit.
Devolver wishes it had those kind of numbers.
I mean, Devolver also does really, really well.
They do really, really well, but yeah, exactly. They do really well, and I think that when they get like viral games, cost versus revenue games, I think Humble did better. They did sold very, very well and had very low cost games to make.
Yeah. So
Whereas
yeah, it's
Devolver's games cost a little bit more, and they may actually make a little more revenue, but the cost is much higher.
basically it's hard out there for an indie publisher
Yep,
and an indie
because
developer.
because of those 5 freaking games that everybody's
Because everyone's playing Roblox.
fucking Roblox. Seriously, I have got to get her play. It's because her friends play Roblox. Anyway, okay, so my next item is speaking of 5 games that everybody's gonna play. Dragon Age. Dragon Age is
Oh no, let's be honest. That's not going to be one of the 5 games everybody's playing.
well, let's just say some journalists have had their hands on them, and I can't remember which one it was, but somebody said, I think the quote was, "BioWare is back."
Look,
It's
okay,
that
here's
good.
the thing. I was watching Min-Max like when during the Summer Games Fest when this was first revealed.
Mhm.
And the guy who went there and got to play it came away with really good feelings about it. And he was like, I was surprised by the negative reaction to the trailer because what I played was really, really good. Here's the thing, though. The unfortunate truth about like some media franchise that puts out multiple iterations, like Dragon Age, like anything, the quality of that product matters less than the quality of the product that came before. The sins of the predecessor are visited on the sequel. If
Yes.
you put out a crappy movie
Yeah.
and you put out a sequel that's better,
Yep.
people are going to go see that sequel. BioWare has put out 2 very poorly received games. It doesn't matter how good the Veil Guard is. I think it's going to be a money loser for EA. The only real question is, will it be well received critically enough that EA decides to stick with it so that hopefully the sequel to that game will actually sell well?
Maybe. Maybe.
That I think is the big question.
Maybe. There's a lot of people that remember the good feelings from the original, from Origins. And
Yeah,
they're
I do. And you know what? I'll just go play that game again because I don't believe BioWare
if
will
if
take
if the reviews come out and everybody's like, "This game is awesome," you will buy it.
No, I'll wait for sale. There are plenty of other big things coming out at the end of this year. Like, no.
Yeah. So anyway, Dragon, which is the actual story,
Yes, I digress.
EA has narrowed down its release window for Dragon Age: The Veilguard, but not by a lot, only slightly. They'd originally indicated it would launch after October 1st. right now they were just saying that it's going to be a fall or autumn launch window. And it was missing from last year's or the last financial results calendar. So they'd originally said it was going to be at Q3. Now they're saying they were going to saying it was fall or autumn launch. Now it's saying after October 1st. So bottom line, it looks like it's going to be autumn. It looks like it's going to be after October 1st. I'm thinking it's going to be November because that was, if you remember, that was when Inquisition launched in November. In fact, that post-Christmas arrival time has been usually a really big time for them. Usually at the beginning of the year, if you remember, Mass Effect 2 was a January, Dragon Age 2 was a March, Mass Effect 3 was March, Mass Effect Andromeda was March, Anthem was February. I think that they're saying autumn, which means it's got to be before the end of the year. But the problem is that October is pretty full of some very hefty titles that I don't know that Dragon Age wants to be up against. October 25th, Black Ops 6. November 15th is Assassin's Creed. I'm thinking that it is going to be November 1st. They're going to try and pop it right in between or after November 1st. But it's going to be hard to argue that that's fall at that point.
Oh, I don't know, man. I'm looking at a release calendar in October. There's more stuff releasing in October, but there's more smaller stuff.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like,
November feels like a bad
think that
time.
early October. Well, maybe it's early October, but after the 1st, maybe it's the 2nd. I think it's going to be early November.
Because looking at the release calendar from GameSpot, major games coming out in October are
Okay.
Silent Hill 2,
Okay.
Metaphor ReFantazio,
Okay.
Super Mario Party Jamboree,
Okay.
and that's kind of it. There's the new Life is Strange game at the end,
Yeah.
a new Sonic game, a couple like niche JRPGs.
Yeah.
But then you go into November, and you've got Mario and Luigi Brothership, Slitterhead, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Stalker 2, and Microsoft Flight Simulator, which
That's why I say
all
November.
feel like bigger games to me.
They are, but they're not the right segment, gaming segment. I think it's going to be November. I think it's going to be early November. That's just me. I'm willing to put money on it.
What I will say, and this can segue into my next item.
All
right. Benefiting Dragon Age is the fact that Avowed has now been delayed into February of next year.
Isn't that the one that everyone's like, we're not going to say Avowed and Skyrim in the same sentence? That's like the Skyrim.
This is Obsidian's first-person RPG.
Yep.
Which I think they've had some trouble showing off, but it's Obsidian and they make great RPGs. So
yes, I do.
I've always believed
I am Obsidian's bitch. I really, really am.
I've always believed that if Avowed and Dragon Age came out around the same time, it would be unfortunate for Dragon Age. It would lose that comparison.
I think it would too. I think it would. When do they just got it was originally set for what day?
They hadn't actually said, which is a little weird that as we get up to the end of the year. But if you remember last week, we talked about how Stalker 2 got delayed into November.
Right.
Microsoft has that's basically why they said they delayed Avowed. It wasn't so much like, oh, the game needs polish, it needs to be worked on. Their excuse was, we want to give your backlogs a break. So now that we've delayed one game into November, we want to give the games room. So we're going to delay Avowed into February. Which, honestly, is like taking it at face value. one of the smartest scheduling moves that any publisher could do, because it's an issue when games get released on top of each other. They all cannibalize each other. So if you have a game that got delayed on top of another game, like, just fucking delay that thing.
Right. Doesn't hurt. And that way, when the investors say, why don't you release it now? You can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why it would be good on EA to release in that early November, because it's enough amount of time for people to purchase that and Avowed. It needs to be an and, not an or, because in an or, Dragon Age.
Yes, I think it would lose that or. BioWare releasing anything. But see, here's the thing. I think BioWare, based on the track record, will always lose that or. I think if it's or Indiana Jones, they'll pick Indiana Jones. If it's or Assassin's Creed, they'll pick Assassin's Creed.
It depends on who's releasing it. It depends on who's like Assassin's Creed, yes. Indiana Jones, maybe. Obsidian, Avowed would not be winning that or if it weren't for Obsidian. So I think that ultimately this, and I can't believe that it's a sign of the times. It's a sign of what BioWare has done to their company, that BioWare is losing to everybody. It has to earn back the name. That BioWare has to be back with this game, because then BioWare is the whole value of the company, the whole value of the name, that value of the legacy is lost. The fact that some people are saying BioWare is back is enough of a spark of hope to make people kind of go, really? Because we'd really love to have that. We want BioWare to come back. We really, really, really want BioWare to be what it used to be. And if it doesn't happen this time, you might as well just change the name of the company, because it's just going to be another independent developer that we don't care about. We'll never believe them again. BioWare gets that rare opportunity for another shot just because of its history and its legacy. But when you get that second chance and you blow it, that's it. You're done. Anyway, moving right along. My final item is Helldivers. New game that I'm actually really, really still enjoying. There is a new Helldivers Warbond coming out, which actually sounds kind of cool. And when I bring it up, Nick is probably going to want to play Helldivers tonight. We don't know. It's supposed to be arriving soon. We don't know when, but it's going to be named the Freedom's Flame Premium Warbond. It's not out yet. Oh, sorry. It's arriving August 8th. My bad. It's arriving next Thursday, just after the big Escalation of Freedom update. But here's what's kind of cool about it. It is all fire-based. Weapons-wise, there's incendiary phosphorus firing pump action shotguns. One of them's called the Cookout. A lightweight flamethrower called the Torture, and a fire shooting handgun called the Crisper. You can also have buy a skin for your Hellpod that turns it into like a firebomb, and when you land, it sets stuff on fire around you when you touch down. Now, for the armor, there's something called a heat seeker suit. It's red, obviously, and the Draconaut which has bits that looks like have been wrapped in tinfoil. So yeah, passive abilities are 75% damage resistance to fire, which is, I think, going to be more important later, because I think with this Escalation of Freedom, there's probably going to be a lot of fire involved. Like, I anticipate that there's going to be some fire environments. There's also some emotes and capes and everything. But yes. So yeah, bottom line, the next Warbond is all flaming and actually sounds kind of cool.
That's cool. I hope they don't
Who doesn't
nerf
want to set a bug
the
on fire?
equivalent of. I hope they don't nerf fire damage against bugs because right now fire is very effective against the bugs.
Yeah,
So it would kind of suck if this came out and they nerf that.
Yeah.
Save the nerf for the month after.
right. All right, so that was my last item. Any items from you? The final ones?
Yes, I have one last one. Speaking of stuff getting delayed, Prison Architect 2.
Oh, really? Prison Architect. Have you played it? It's a really good game.
I've seen videos of it.
Yes, it's fun.
Um,
Absurdly fun.
so it was set to launch in September, but
was
now
it?
it's been indefinitely delayed, and anyone who pre-ordered it is getting a refund.
Do we know why? Who is the developer?
The developer, I don't know who the developer is, but the publisher is Paradox, which is unfortunately another bump in the road for Paradox after canceling, what was it, Life by You, the Sims like earlier this year, just
Right,
a couple months ago.
right.
I guess Paradox bought the franchise from the original developers and announced the sequel.
Oh, so they didn't do the first one. Got
Yeah.
it.
Basically, in the post on the Paradox forums, the developers said they need more time to improve the game's performance and its content. They can't commit to a new release date as they're reassessing the scope of work that needs to be done.
So have to scrap
Which
it. It's all bad.
Sounds similar to what they said when Paradox canceled Life by You.
Life by You.
And the post also, and I'm reading this from Kotaku, warned that communication between the team and fans will be limited until they feel more comfortable showing the game and talking about a release timeline. Which, honestly, is probably a good idea. Because I'll bet if any of those developers had a Twitter account, that Twitter will be full of toxic bullshit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's probably good to go on like a communication hiatus.
Yeah.
But
Well,
Paradox has stressed that the game isn't
not canceled.
canceled.
It's just indefinitely delayed.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, who did the layoffs? They're not laid off. It's just there's no offices and no employees.
Yeah.
Who was it that just had
Oh,
layoffs?
that was
Was it Take-Two?
Take-Two. Yes.
Yeah, Take-Two. We didn't close a studio. We've never closed a studio. Well, we have lots of studios with nobody working for them and no address and no building and no projects and nothing going on. But they're not closed.
But they still exist on paper.
They exist. They're there. I have $1 million. It exists. Right up here.
That sucks for anyone looking forward to it. And like given Paradox's recent history,
Yeah.
it puts the whole game's existence in a little bit of a limbo.
You think Paradox is up on the auction block?
I don't. They've had a rough couple years.
Yes, they have. And there's one of two ways that could go. Because, I mean, I guess you could have, like, pulling themselves up by their bootstraps, but we all know that's not going to happen. So one of two things is going to happen. They're going to go under or they're going to get sold. Who might buy them?
That's hard to say because the people most likely to buy them are like publishers that publish big on console.
Mm-hmm.
But Paradox is a very PC focused company.
Yep.
Maybe Sega, just because Sega owns another like RTS developer. And so they kind of focus on PC.
You don't think
But you
Valve might be interested in their IPs and in their games, do you?
Valve is probably in the best position to buy them, but Valve doesn't buy companies.
That's
Not
true.
really. Valve would not buy them.
Yep.
Valve doesn't make games. Not
Valve
anymore.
doesn't need to make games. I don't know. Who might be a company?
Who is a big PC publisher?
I mean, EA might buy them, but I don't think so.
No, I don't think, because like a lot of what Paradox does is pretty niche, right? They do like a bunch of the city builder games. They do like Crusader Kings, Victoria, Europea Universalis. They do a lot of niche strategy games.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is it maybe Obsidian?
No, Obsidian's owned by Xbox. They're owned
Oh,
by.
yeah. Sorry, I've just had you even just said the name, and I've just had a brain cramp. What's the name of the publisher again? Crusader Kings publisher.
Oh, Paradox.
Paradox. Okay. Yeah. I see.
That's why I was thinking Sega, if only because Sega owns another RTS developer that's done pretty good things for them. But again, that's a big ask, and I don't think Sega has the money to do that.
Tencent wouldn't. Maybe would. Do you think?
I mean, Tencent has enough money that they just throw out like "fuck you" money. So
Yeah, they kind of do.
maybe. Like 3 years ago, I would say Embracer.
I was gonna say Embracer. Absolutely. Yeah, that was like. That would have been my first thing out of my mouth. Is Embracer is gonna buy them. I think 3 years ago, Embracer would have bought Game Informer.
Look, Embracer would have bought everything,
Everything.
but then they would have shut it down.
Yeah. Hey, listen, they haven't shut everything down. I'm sitting in a house right now that was built by Embracer. 'Cause remember, he works for him.
Doing what?
The boy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he's not working for them now.
Yes.
No, he's not.
Yes.
No. I know what game he's working on. It's not Embracer, it's Microsoft.
Right. Yes, but it's Microsoft that has created its own little niche company to work with his company, and he is an employee of that company. It is that
But
company.
that company is also not owned by Embracer.
Yes, it is.
Oh, fuck! What are they called?
I'm not going to
Hell,
say it.
okay, you're not gonna say it, really? Do I have to like go down a rabbit hole of looking up the games I know they published? Okay, no, wait. Oh, I don't know which one it is. Okay.
Crystal Dynamics.
Yes, there. Is Crystal Dynamics owned by Embracer? Square Enix sold Crystal Dynamics to Embracer in August 2022. Okay, they are still owned. I thought they separated.
Nope, they are part of game. Was it not Game of Thrones? Lord of the Rings and Friends, whatever. When they split into 3 companies and then sold one off, or letting one die, sold one off, and then kept the rest. He's in the kept the rest.
Who were the developers that got to escape the embrace of Embracer Group?
Who did?
It's like there were a couple ones that got to leave. Oh, they sold Gearbox.
Yeah. Gearbox was one of them. What else did they shed? But yeah, no, they kept Crystal. And
I mean, that's probably a good idea because Crystal Dynamics makes relatively good and popular games, and God knows Embracer needs everything it can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they closed all those guys.
That was our first conversation. That was our first conversation by text, was when he told me who we worked for. When he told me what games he worked for, the first question was like, so tell me about Embracer. By the way, sorry you work for Embracer. I'm kind of rooting for him, always have. And then of course he gave me the scoop on the inside of his opinion of Embracer, which is They're fine, actually. They leave us alone and let us make games.
Well, yes, they do. But that means if they ever hit a downturn, or God forbid, Crystal Dynamics puts out a bad game,
I don't think so. I think that they made that. I mean, I don't want to talk too far out of baseball on this because obviously, yeah. But I think that, and this is my journalist head talking, the restructuring that they did to put it in the trifold of, like marry, fuck, kill. They've married the they've married the what was it Lord of the Rings and Friends. What were the three different tiers that they said?
Let's see. I'm okay. There's the Middle Earth Enterprises and
Middle
Friends.
Earth, it's it, right? Middle Earth, three.
Coffee Stain and Friends.
Coffee Stain and Friends, right? And then Asmodee.
Oh yeah.
So Asmodee Group is kill. Coffee Stain is fuck, meaning that they can keep they'd be fine to happy to sell them. They're not committed to them.
Look,
They're
Coffee Stain.
They're a good lay, but I'm not gonna marry them.
Coffee Stain is the name given to the indie game publishers and studios. So yeah, those are absolutely like the first to go.
The first to go.
Asmodee is the publisher of board and card games. So kill them. Coffee Stain is indie games. Kill them.
Fuck them.
Middle Earth Enterprises is everything else. But honestly, like
they put the Marys into Middle Earth and Friends. They put the fucks into Asmodee, meaning that we'll keep them around. They make they do pretty good. They make they make money, not a lot, but they make some. They're solid studios, have some really good IPs, independent IPs. Certainly could be sold off in part or in whole or shut down, and it would hurt us terribly. We still have the IPs that we could sell elsewhere. And Asmodee, which is like, yeah, no. I mean, if somebody wants to buy them, take them off our hands. We don't want them. And if you don't take them, we're just going to completely defund them until they die.
Oh, it was Saber Interactive. That's the company that basically bought itself out from Embracer.
Right. That's right. They did. I remember that. They did buy themselves out. They might be actually the big winner of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Crystal Dynamics was in the Middle Earth Enterprises, and that happened at the time that I was dating Chris. So that was instantly on my mind. It was the first things I looked up. And then I started to really analyze what Embracer did. Now, going back to what I was saying, is that everything in Middle Earth, if they don't do well on the first one, if they're only solid, or even if they're a little bit of a fumble, I think that they're not going to be killed. They're the marrying kind. They're committed to these ones, and the limited resources they have and the resources that they are still actually able to get investment for are going to go into Middle Earth. This is their flagship stuff.
Look, as long as Crystal Dynamics doesn't work on a Lord of the Rings product, because that shit is poison. Everything Lord of the Rings, other than the Peter Jackson movies and the Tolkien books, has flopped.
Yeah.
Even
and the animated show in the 70s or in the 80s, they did have a Hobbit animation that was really good. I remember that. That's what got me.
But that's not modern times.
True. But neither
are modern books. Look, I'm sure Embracer made out like, no, they didn't. All the money Amazon spent for the show, Embracer didn't get a dime with that because that's a different license. Yeah, it sucks for Embracer.
Yeah, but like I said earlier, they're bailing. They're bailing out that sinking boat as fast as they can and doing everything they can to plug the holes.
Look, I'm
not afraid to sacrifice the good stuff to stick it in the holes to keep
we've argued about this before. You know my thoughts on Embracer. I think the CEO is bad because he basically bought a bunch of stuff and wrote a lot of checks that he didn't know he could cash. And when it turns out, oops, the check bounced, everyone else has to suffer for
He's
his
not the
over
villain.
eagerness.
He's not the villain, but he's the fool.
Yeah, he can be both.
He's not the villain.
He can be both.
The villain were the guys that pulled the rug out from underneath him.
No,
He was spending money that he thought he had based on promises. He was the fool for not getting it first before he bought.
Look,
based on business handshake commitments that he believed were going to be upheld.
There is no reason that the fool also can't be the villain.
Sometimes it's just a matter of intention. I don't think that the CEO of Embracer intended it to happen.
That's fine. He can still be a villain.
He made a blunder of epic proportion.
Incompetence doesn't prevent you from being a villain.
Villains were the investors who knew exactly what they were doing. They had malicious intent.
No, I'm sure the investors looked at Embracer and were like, "Why are you buying up all these B studios? I don't want to get into bed with you."
No. The investors greenlighted all of those deals. The investors had to greenlight all those deals. What the investors did, and if they had, they would have said something sooner than 5 hours before the announcement. They would have said it long before. They did that intentionally to destroy Embracer. The timing.
I don't think they did.
Nothing but malicious. It was malicious that they wanted Embracer to buy those all up and then fail so that they could swoop in and get them for a bargain price. Because Embracer paid a premium. And if they instantly bankrupted Embracer, they could swoop in and get them at bargain basement prices.
I do not subscribe to your conspiracy theory. I think Embracer is just a poorly run company.
No, Embracer was a patsy. No, it's true. Embracer was a poorly run company. They were a patsy. He was the fool, not the villain. But good on that fool.
Semantics aside.
He's making the hard decisions and he's doing the right thing and he's getting investments back to them. And he's doing the right thing by the companies that they're keeping.
Yeah, we'll see. I keep seeing news stories about them closing stuff, so the bloodletting has not stopped.
No, the story's definitely not over. But it's not the doom and gloom that I think it was. And I was saying this long before. You can attest to this. You can go back. There's video proof. I was saying this about Embracer long before I was personally involved in the story.
And so was I. We've been on the same side of this fight for like the past several years.
Right. For the past several years, we have been absolutely heels dug in on our positions about this. And I will never see where you are and you will never see where I am. But I have a feeling that the only thing that's going to settle this argument is time. And I think time is going to be on my side on this one. I think that Embracer is going to come out of this. I don't think Embracer is going to come out nearly as great as if they had not had all of that crap happen to them. But I think that they're going to come out of this a very strong company with lessons learned that those mistakes will never be made again. Not just by them. I don't think anybody's ever going to trust the Saudis again. It's like, no, we're not buying shit based on your handshake. No, we need to see the money in our bank account and then we can talk about partnership.
Okay, then keep going. Except you know what? Maybe, just maybe, have some common sense and don't get into a casual, friendly handshake deal for $2 billion, mother. Stop.
I didn't say he wasn't a fool. That's exactly what I said. I said he was a fool for doing that. Absolute abject moron for doing that. Handshake deals like that sometimes work, but they can also, if they go wrong, they can go very, 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 very.
Edie, I'm kind of short on cash. Could I borrow like $2 billion? I'll pay you. I promise I'll pay you back.
I know, but if you
know I'm good for it, right? You know I'm good for it.
Business plan. if you give me a business plan that I think would make $2 million, I would absolutely do that on a handshake because I know that you're a good guy.
I'm gonna buy Paradox. I'm gonna buy Paradox Studios with that money, and then I'm gonna invest the rest into Nvidia.
I can think of worse things to do with money.
Yeah.
I want to
So what do you think?
buy Bitcoin with it. Yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. No, Bitcoin's out.
NFT.
Bitcoin's out. I'm buying the whatever the hot
Doge.
new coin is. No, even Doge. Doge is old. Doge is old. No, I'm starting a new coin. I'm starting the Hound coin, the GH coin.
I think Hound coin's already been out.
We'll buy them out. We'll buy all the Hound coins and then rename them.
Logan
GameHounds
Paul
coins.
has a new coin, and we're going all in. No, we are not.
You know what? You know what's coming back? You know what's coming back in style in 2025?
Here's the thing. Okay.
NFTs.
It's right. Okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing, Nick. I'm the villain in this story, right? You want to go out and buy Logan Paul's latest coin, right? And you ask me
Oh,
for
that's right. Ace
$2
Reed had another story. It's just a quick, like, for a while there was always a Mario and Sonic at the Olympics game.
Yeah.
Why is there not one for these Olympics? Well, it's because the Olympic committee basically said, no, we want to make our own game stuff. And so they made like crappy NFT mobile games of Olympic stuff. And
It must be going well.
yeah,
because I haven't heard of them.
yeah. They do have an Olympics esports, like an officially licensed Olympics esports thing. It's not happening now. I don't know when it's happening, but it's also kind of a whole bunch of shady business deals.
All right. In that scenario you just gave to me, you asked me for $2 billion to go buy
It's still on this.
Nvidia
Okay.
stock. All right.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. I'm the villain. You're the fool. I say, Nick, I think that's a great idea. You really should do it. Hey, I'll give you the $2 billion. But you know what? There's a sale on right now for Nvidia stock. Like the Nvidia stock right now is as low as it's going to be. It's about to pop, dude. You have to buy it right now. I'm not liquid right now, but if you buy it right now, next week I will have that money before okay, you have a 3-day float. Go buy $2 billion worth of Nvidia stock. You have 3 days before that money needs to be settled, right? Go buy it right now. In 3 days, I will have $2 billion into your bank account, okay? And then on the third day, I go, yeah, no. I bankrupt you, and then I get to take your apartment.
You keep saying, oh, they get to take it for pennies. The Saudi
I
group
get
doesn't.
your cats. I get your cats. That's what happens. You would not sell me.
Come on.
You would not sell me your cats for love or money. But if I bankrupt you, I could adopt your cats for free, Nick. Give them a good home because you can't afford to keep them anymore.
Look, a key part of your conspiracy theory is that the Saudi group gets all these developers for pennies on the dollar, right?
No, the IPs. They want the IPs.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The developers, they could care less whether they get the developers. They want the IPs.
Okay, so why have they not bought any of these IPs? Why have they not bought anything Embracer's sold off?
Why has Embracer not sold it to them?
Oh my God. This is the problem. This is the problem arguing with a conspiracy theorist, because there's always a larger conspiracy.
Boldly, in your face, bankrupted you, so you had to put your cats up for adoption. Would you let me have your cats? No, you would find anybody but me to take your cats. Because there's no way you would do it. Because you were so pissed.
Except by your own logic, if they offered more money than those other people, shouldn't I still do that? Because I need that money.
You know what? Depends.
Yeah, depends.
Actually,
whether the CEO, how petty is the CEO in addition to being a fool?
You would let me have Shepherd and Jupiter, but I'd have to pay you $20,000. I wouldn't get them for free. Everybody else can adopt them, but I'd have to pay for them.
And how petty, in addition to foolish, is the CEO?
It's not a matter of petty. He's doing fine. He's doing fine. He does not want to rely upon a company that has already burnt him once. Why would you go back to do business with that person ever again? How could
Then
you
doesn't
ever trust them?
then doesn't that render the entire fundamental premise of your conspiracy theory untenable? Doesn't
Yes,
it render it moot?
but
Doesn't that mean the Saudis' whole plan, the whole grand conspiracy is suddenly come unraveled?
it did unravel. Why? Because, Nick, you managed to find some way to restructure all your debt and sell off your couches, your TVs, your
Ah,
consoles, and everything, and restructure your debt and make promises to your landlords to, like, hey, just give me a couple of weeks to make rent, right? And you didn't go homeless. You almost did, but you didn't. You were supposed to be made homeless. You were supposed to be destroyed and be living under an overpass somewhere and not be able to take care of your cats. And you didn't. You survived by a hair's breadth, but you made it, which means that you get to keep those cats. Now, my plan was foiled. How would you ever possibly give me the
it's
cats?
the
Because
perfect conspiracy theory because reality proves your conspiracy correct.
no, I think that yes, it proved reality proves my conspiracy absolutely happened because Saudis didn't end up with shit. Embracer didn't go under. That was the plan. Embracer needs to go under. It needed to go into receivership, and then it was going to be sold off by the bank. They didn't go under, and now they don't have any of those IPs. Their plan was foiled by the fact that Embracer was able to hold it together by this hair's breadth. Hair's breadth.
CEO is the hero of this story.
I'm not saying he's
The
a hero.
hero
He's
CEO.
not a hero. He's not a hero, but he's
Saves the
scrappy.
sinking ship.
He's scrappy as fuck, and he's bailing as hard as he can in best way that he can. A lesser once he realized the horrible mistake that he has made the right decision to do everything he can do to save his studio. He has not given up. He has not said die. He is doing exactly what he needs to do. And that's why I don't blame them, even though the Asmodee people are not very happy, for structuring it in that three-way, marry, fuck, kill, or keep, sell, trash, if you want to take it that way, when you're cleaning your house. Keep, sell, trash piles. Putting them into 3 piles, that's what you do when you're cleaning out the house, because you got to get rid of your stuff. So what he's done, I think, after that moment, has been about as smart as a CEO has ever been.
Sure thing.
It's what got him there was being an abject moron, was abject lunacy, was probably should go down in history as one of the worst business decisions ever made. But once that mistake was made and revealed to be the mistake it was, he's made every decision since then correct.
Sure.
I am HO, and I said that before, and I've stuck by that for the last 2 years.
I would not invest in Embracer.
Not last year. Actually, it's been the last year. It's only been a year.
No, it's been longer. June 2022.
Was it 2022?
Oh no, June 2022 is when they announced the partnership with the Saudi Public Investment Fund. May 23 is when
Right. It's
the deal
just been
fell
a year.
through.
Just a little over a year and a half.
Yeah.
When the whole deal fell through, and they managed to keep it going when it was like, oh, Embracer's done. We knew they were done. The vultures were lined up ready to pick at those bones, and they never got a chance. It crawled through the desert and got himself to the barest of oases just to get a few drops of water so it could just keep going.
Okay.
All right.
Sure thing. Whatever.
we have milked this into 2 hours and 38 seconds. All right. Anything else? Because we should close out this show.
No, that's all I got.
All right. Good. We need to talk about Clown. Are we going to do anything again tonight this week? Are we
Clown.
gonna do a game?
Oh. No, I like watching the Olympics and playing on the handheld.
All right. All right. I might do I don't have my gaming computer with me. I might just stream some Dice and Fold. I've got my headset. I might as well.
You stream what you can.
Yeah, might do it right after this because otherwise I've got nothing else to do because everybody's at Valley Fair and I got a refrigerator full of Diet Coke and
You see, this is why you need a handheld. This is
Yeah.
why you need a Switch.
oh, this is great. This would be perfect. This would be perfect. I mean, I've been that girlfriend. I've done the laundry, so it's all good. Yes, I am that girlfriend. All right. So on that note, let's close this out.
Yes.
You've been listening to Game
Oh,
Hounds.
yeah,
What?
he says you have a Steam Deck. You have a Steam Deck. Why do you not have the Steam Deck over there?
Why would I have the Steam Deck over here?
So that you can play things instead of like
I
do
don't
laundry.
have any time to play stuff around here. This is the first time that I've
Oh,
actually.
that's right. That's right. You misplaced it, didn't you?
It's somewhere. Yeah, I have no idea. Where it is.
That's why she doesn't have the Steam Deck.
I don't. Right, it's true. But also on top of that, I'm usually busy. It's like usually somebody's asking me to do something, or we're going somewhere. And today is one of those rare times that I'm left in his house, pretty much by myself, with the exception of his father who's downstairs, which is why I'm here and doing and also I do the podcast. But he's at Valley Fair Mall with his daughter and his daughter's friend, and he's going to be there the rest of the afternoon because until they leave. So I actually don't have somebody that's going to be pestering me to do stuff.
Yeah, that's the perfect time to get some gaming in.
That's what I'm going to do as soon as I get off this. Will you let me actually close out the show so I can play a fucking game, Nick?
Now, why don't you tell me how you feel about Embracer? I think they're kind of bad.
Thank you for listening to GameHounds. You're listening to Game episode 724. Or is it 725? I can't tell. I might have given the wrong number. We just recorded this on August 4th, 2024. I'm Edie Pillars, and with me has been Nikki Nicola. Ways to get a hold of us, GameHounds.net, which I actually have revamped the website. I actually cleaned it up a little bit so it's not all broken. You can go there and check it out at GameHounds.net. Also, you can get a hold of us by emailing us, gamehounds@gmail.com. Hey, Goalie just sent me a text who said, where's my Steam Deck? Fuck you, Goalie. Hey, did you notice in the microphone? Anyway, okay, gamehounds@gmail.com is a way to get a hold of us by email. We record the show live every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern here on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch. Facebook, we are GameHounds, on facebook.com/GameHounds. YouTube, we are GameHounds Vids, VIDS, is in videos, 2 words. And on Twitch, we are the GameHounds. Please join us next week if you're just coming in, just looking at us after the fact. Come and join us live. We'd love to have you. Thank you, AC Wraith, or Linkbits, for being in the chat room and being here and keeping the chat going all day. You, once again, are our angel. And yeah, I think this might be your year for your guitar. Let's see, what else? Our Discord channel. We are on a Discord. We love to have our listeners on Discord. You guys are great when we talk to you. That's where we have like news and information and announcements. We have watch parties. We have gaming parties. That's where we all kind of hang out. So if you'd like to join our Discord, there's our Discord number right there, our Discord channel information right there. We are 100% Patreon funded. $1 a month is all we ask. That's all it takes. That's 25 cents a show because we record every week. $1 a month is all we ask. If you join our Patreon, it helps us pay for all of the subscriptions that we need to keep this thing going. And we would love to have you back and be able to see and know that you're there. Thank you to all of our patrons. We are so appreciative of everything that you do and everything that you provided for us over the years. And thank you for sticking with us and being here all the way. And next year, we might even be at PAX if we actually get our crap together. So, everyone, have a great week. We'll talk to you later. And watch Twitch. Keep your eyes open for Twitch tonight. I'm probably going to be playing Dice and Fold in the next 15 minutes or so, as long as I get a soda downstairs. Have a great week, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And we're out. Thanks, Goalie, if you're still listening. Thank you, AC Wraith. And I'm going to go get something to drink, go to the bathroom, and then I'll be on Twitch in a little bit to play Destin Fold so you can watch it. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Community manager. Oh, wait a minute. Is Piss the community manager? Is that on the website? I have to figure that out. I have to fix that. I'll fix that. Because that's got to be changed. I think that you're a community manager, dude. All right.
Oh, how's the lips in? Is that up to date?
No,
The audio feed?
no, it's not. The audio feed's not up to date. It's not, but it will be. Bye. Yeah, my voice is starting.